Everybody, welcome to One Fucking Hour. Unfortunately, under these circumstances, but we are here tonight to pay tribute to the man, David Lynch. I'm Evan Husney. Welcome to the show. We got, as always, here to the left, Big T, Tom Fitzgerald. T, how you hanging in?
Hey, everybody.
And also to the right, Mr. Marcus Herring. Marcus, welcome.
Hey there. Yeah, it was some bummer news to last week? Yeah, anyway, bummer news.
A few days ago.
It really knocked me out for like the whole day, you know?
Yeah.
I don't remember a loss that big, you know, for a while.
Yeah,
Sure.
we're definitely going to get into it. Just so everybody's up to speed, what we're doing this week, we've sort of interrupted our regularly scheduled programming. This week we were going to do One Fucking Hour on Fargo, our first Coen Brothers film, but obviously the news broke a few days ago. David Lynch has passed away, and we felt, in addition to all of the emotions, we felt it was necessary to put together a tribute show, sort of looking back at David and his work, and, you know, he meant so much to us. We've covered his films on this channel many times. We did One Fucking Hour on Lost Highway, I think, in year one of the show. We've done Mulholland Drive together when we were in person in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, yeah.
We did Twin
Down
Peaks.
the hill,
right up by Mulholland Drive. We did Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me with Rémy, and then we also did audio commentary track to Blue Velvet. So we're just he's super intertwined here. He's a big filmmaker here for us on One Fucking Hour. We've been fans of his work forever, and it just felt like the thing to do was just to sort of address this and to share our personal reflections, memories, and sort of eulogize the master, if you will. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're going to do here
We've
tonight.
been calling it something of a wake, where we'll all just chime in and say our piece and reflect on him and what he maybe meant to us, you know. Exactly.
And we have some special guests who will be joining us throughout tonight. They're going to be calling in from all over the country to chime in with their own personal stories about David Lynch and, you know, what he meant to them as well. So, but no ads tonight, no plugs. I think we should just get right into this. Also, the clock is going to be taking a break tonight. So, that's sort of the half-mast here at One Fucking Hour, no clock. And I feel like, I don't know, guys, should we just get into it?
Yeah,
sure.
Okay. All right, so Marcus, to kind of just echo what you were saying, you know, and just not being able to think of a sort of, if you want to say celebrity death or sort of an artist death that affected you as much. I mean, I can't either almost. And I was kind of wondering why that was. You know, it's not like this news when I read it the other day, it just hit me really heavy. It was a heavy hit, you know, when I found out that he passed away. And, you know, I think it was last year or maybe earlier this year, it came out, you know, he had emphysema, he was housebound, you know, he wasn't leaving the house. And, you know, it's from obviously smoking the cigarettes and all that stuff. And maybe he had COPD or something too. I'm not sure. But he had this great, like, him announcing the news that he had emphysema. He was like, you know, I don't regret smoking any of those cigarettes. I enjoyed every single one of those cigarettes. You know, I love cigarettes, you know, or whatever. Yeah. But so even though we knew all of that and that maybe, you know, he was on borrowed time or we don't know how much longer he had, because that can be a brutal fight, you know, emphysema. Yeah. And but it still hit me so hard, like a shock, you know. And it was a profound sadness, I would say, that I carried around with me that whole day. And even the next day, just seeing all this, my whole feed on, you know, social media was everyone sharing, you know, the clips and the videos and the music and his speeches and things he said, you know, at the Transcendental Meditation sort of seminars and things that he's done. It was just a heavy weight on me. And 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 it's not just like, because he's an artist and he made stuff that resonated with me or anything like that. It was just so much more than that. And I was trying to figure out why. And I think part of the thing about David to me that's like so I don't know, I think what makes him so special is that he is so pure and he's so authentic. Like, it's hard to even imagine somebody more authentic than him. And and his work is so 100% him. It's such an extension of him. And and I was starting to think too how wild it was and how fortunate we were as a culture that Lynch's path crossed with the mainstream, and the zeitgeist. It's pretty wild to think the guy that made Eraserhead would have films that were released by major studios. Twin Peaks was on primetime network television. Right, it's crazy that like this guy. Well,
it is kind of like we've said, but recently, like Butthole Surfers didn't imagine that they'd ever wind up on a major label. They wound up on Capitol Records, but they were saying, if you asked us 10 years before, when they were being stridently, completely in this direction against everything mainstream, they said, okay, great, we're going to go to Pluto after we get on Capitol Records. It just seemed unimaginable. And I would agree that it was a strange, pleasant surprise to see him go up the ladder to like the cover of Time magazine. Yeah.
So, right. And so here's a guy who, gets that, his crazy, weird atmospheric dreamscapes, nightmarescapes, if you will, that he creates, that are both beautiful, and terrifying. These are things that are going to that resonated with a mainstream audience and had that chance, for a lot of people to connect with it and to see it and to experience it. And so for me, I was very like, happy thinking back on that was something that and then he was able to be so influential to so many different people. But he had such a unique perspective. I saw a quote somewhere. Somebody shared this on social media where they said like, Quentin Tarantino is a guy who's like interested in, cutting somebody's ear off, where David Lynch is the director who's interested in the ear, and like, it's like, he's just such a unique person who's thinking on such a different wavelength than everybody else. It's like, I often think like not everyone needs to be a filmmaker, for crying out loud. Everyone doesn't need to do that just because they can. And he's somebody that, is so filled with ideas, as we know, and these ideas come to him and he nurtures them and they blossom into this wild idea or wild film, wild piece of art, furniture, whatever it is. He's so good at translating that vision, that inspiration that he gets into something completely original. So that's what's amazing. But anyway, as I'm feeling sad for the loss of that, this really authentic, pure person, I started to kind of feel that like cynical, depressed vibe where I was scared about like where we're headed as a society, not to bum everybody out, but like as a culture where, we're sort of marching into this, like, politically, our society, artistically, commercially, where things are going and how it's so less pure and authentic than things used to be, that sort of, Gen X kind of style gripe, about stuff.
Sure.
And I started to really feel that way because I haven't seen all the movies, not to get off subject, but I haven't seen all these movies that have been coming out this year. And, so many people get this opportunity to make films and it just feels so cosplay, the cosplay auteurs going out there making these films. And it's just sad to lose somebody so pure, and have that connection with somebody. But so anyway, but when I felt myself being so cynical and getting in that headspace, I realized that David Lynch himself would not want me to be in that headspace. He would want me to not dwell on the negative. He'd want me to see the positive. Yeah. He'd want me to see the beauty in things that are still there in the world around us. That's a big part of him. And he would criticize me for getting too down about the way things are or how I think the way the things are, going. And so I think that's what I do love about him. He is somebody who's so connected to this, we talk about it on the show, this dark nightmare world that he creates, but yet he is somebody that also likes to, examine the beautiful qualities of life, as well too. Yeah. And having that positive point of view is a huge part of him. That dichotomy of him is so interesting and singular. So to me, that's why, you know, I do miss him, of course, terribly. It's such a sadness to not have him part of this world anymore. But his work and everything he gave, he's such an inspiring person. I think that's why it hit me the most, is because he had so much to give, and he was such an inspiring force of positivity, you know, no matter what, you know. And so that's what I really love about him. And yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to think now that, you know, maybe we always kind of thought maybe there was another Lynch project around the corner. You know?
Sure.
Maybe, you know, and it came out that he was working on something with Netflix, but you never know. And it's just like, all right.
Yeah. Didn't happen.
So anyway, that's my piece. Thank you, David. Appreciate you. Thank you for everything. You know,
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So anybody else want to go next?
Marcus?
Sure. I mean, yeah, it was one of those, I think, just to your point, Evan, about just the feeling the big loss. You know, the only other thing I can think of was like in 2016, not everyone will agree with me, when David Bowie died, it was like a huge, like, what?
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
It was nuts too, you know?
Yeah.
But I think when people like that, and they give so much of themselves to the world, and David too, he not only did he make all these films, you know, he made all these interviews, and like he would be in his films, and there are all these great iconic moments where he's, you know, giving a speech or ranting about the iPhone or something, you know, that people can rattle off the top of their head. You felt, you know, he was in the public eye so much. I feel like we all got to know him.
Yeah.
You know, we felt like we knew him like a person, you know.
True.
And there's not a lot of directors like that, you know, like where you can kind of like impersonate them, or you feel like that close to them. You know, a lot of them, he's very charismatic. He's interesting. You know, he's unusual.
Yes.
He says all these memorable things, you know, like almost like him talking is almost like him giving you a piece of art, but it also feels like, you know, him. So I don't know. I feel like that's why it feels kind of like a death in the family or something. It's because you get to know him as a person. You know?
Yeah. And his way that he looks at the world, you know, it's when you're looking at a donut, you know, focus on the outside, not the whole inside, you know, and it's
right.
That it's that guru side of him that's, you know, so amazing.
Right.
But yeah, go ahead.
He was like a very positive person, you know, and like finding the beauty in like factories and like you know, like industrial wastelands and stuff, and just like macabre scenes or whatever, finding the beauty in there. And then this what is it in Blue Velvet, like the brightness of love, the blinding light of love or whatever, you know, that theme kind of runs through a lot of his work too, that there's like underneath all the sickness is this beautiful inside love, you know. And Twin Peaks was like that too, and it would just all the weird stuff would melt away, and it would be this
bright light,
bright lights of sweet love happening. And also I gotta say that I am a little sick tonight, so I kind of feel like the baby in Eraserhead a little bit, so. Yeah, so I might get lost in the sauce sometimes and start making, you know, a little sense, but
start crying like
wheezing. Yeah.
Oh, you are sick. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. Are we? I was gonna.
Here we go.
Yeah. See, I'm talking about the Eraserhead baby. I was gonna talk about just the personal experiences. Yeah, getting to know, but maybe we could do it later. I don't know. Does it seem like now is a good time to talk about?
Go for it, dog. Yeah, tell us.
I don't know. I just think like, you know, everything I said about his public character and his reputation, all that stuff, kind of goes out the window. Now, I just wanted to say that, you know, people have heard of these days have heard of a David Lynch film before they've seen them. A lot of times, his reputation precedes him, and his public character precedes him a lot these days. Yeah, but I always felt that my early experiences with him kind of spoke to just the power of his work over his reputation, you know?
Sure.
Like my first Lynch was like Elephant Man, you know, as a kid. And I didn't know who David Lynch was, you know? Yeah. But that movie, like I just really connected with it, you know, and it stuck with me. The emotion, the opening, I thought the opening was so brilliant. And like, you know, it just had a big effect on me at the time. And I saw it on TV or something as a kid, you know? And, then years later when I always loved that film. And then years later, I didn't even know that he had done that film. I was had heard that people would always be like, like art people, their go-to name for films would be like David Lynch, like their favorite director. And I was this young, rebellious kind of jerk. And so I was kind of, rejected that. So I was like, whatever, and I hadn't even seen this film. So when I was like a teenager or something, I was like, fuck that.
Yeah.
But when I had to watch Blue Velvet, like a class in college or whatever. And then I found out he was from Missoula, which, I'm from Montana.
That's right.
I was going to college in Missoula, and then I started to really pay attention. And I was like, and Blue Velvet really caught me. But then my girlfriend at the time was like, you need to watch Twin Peaks. Like, and there was a VHS box tape, and she was like, skip the what is it? The pilot. Watch the pilot. Yeah. Watch episode 1 watch the pilot last, and I was hooked right on. Yeah. And then it was just off to the races for me. So ever since then, I've been a huge Lynch fan, but the reason I wanted to bring that up is just, that his work, it is easy to kind of like, I don't know, his work is also as powerful as he is as a person too. So I kind of wanted to balance out what I was saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, man. Elephant Man and, all that stuff. It is also so amazing that, just to piggyback on what you were saying and what I was saying, like there was this time, when art and commerce met, it's such a wild concept by today's metric, especially in film, but this idea where like the producer, someone like Mel Brooks is like, I saw Eraserhead and I want that guy to make my studio film. It's like, it's too bad that like there isn't like those visionaries of today because, everything's corporation driven, but like the just, that's what's so magic about not only that time period, but just that time period that fostered people like David Lynch and that he was born out of that. And that's just amazing. And, Elephant Man is
the point you're making is interesting because it's like right now someone could make their Eraserhead, a low budget film.
Yeah.
But the surprising jump that he immediately took,
3
or 4 years after, or 3 years after it came out, just because Mel Brooks, person to person, said, I love your work, you're talented, let's go. And then he was off to the races and did, Dune and everything else.
Yeah, because he was just real quick, just before I throw to you, because he was like he was a visual artist studying art in Philadelphia, making wild conceptual pieces, making little art films, and he kind of thought of film as a moving painting in a way. This idea of like this is an abstract piece, and with motion, with time, motion, and sound, I can bring my paintings to life. And it's just amazing that someone who had that mindset going into this art form, a very commercially driven art form, would be so widely accepted and excel. So it's not always, of course, towards the end of his career. I'm sure he fought a lot of uphill battles towards the end, but in his prime, it's just it was amazing at that time that I so yearn for fostered that type of person.
Right. Yeah. But only one though, which I think was one of the major bummers is like Hollywood only ever allowed one David Lynch. You know what I mean? That like nobody else could be weird.
Yeah.
And they kind of kept him, they didn't give him enough. One of our friends was like so mad, after he died was like so mad. She was like writing us saying like, why didn't Hollywood just throw millions of dollars at this guy to like do whatever he wanted?
Right.
Yeah.
So T, you want to say a piece?
Well, it's interesting what you guys are all saying. And I think my head is a little scrambled here, but I thought maybe I would go through it like very personal and think about how during the COVID stuff, I became an avid watcher of his weather reports on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
So, and I didn't know they were that popular and like hip and social media. And so I just like caught it. It was in my feed. Like, I don't think I started watching from the beginning, but I started watching it. But that is how I started my day for a couple years, I think, year and a half. Awesome. Like that, like my day didn't start unless I did it. And I did also today's number, by the way, shout out to the hardcore fans of the stuff. He did a secondary thing that piggybacked on the weather report. He did today's number, and he just had a lottery machine. Maybe you guys know this. Like, and you just go like, today's number is 7, and a little ball, would come out of the lottery machine.
Yeah.
So, but we would also, he'd recommend a song every day, and people have comped these recommendations, and they're on I don't know, like Spotify I think actually has them. So So I'm saying that's a recent encounter I've had with him that was very rewarding. And also I'm in LA, so like, what is the weather?
Sure,
no kidding. So So, and we're in the same time zone. So like there were days I'd wake up so early and it was like, oh my God, he hasn't gone on yet, because I woke up at 7:15, for some reason.
Wow.
This is very cool. So it was very personal. Getting back to that kind of thing you were saying, Marcus, about how like he is, as much as anything, my interest is in him as a human being. And I was just thinking as you guys were talking, I don't know what it is, the details, but he would talk about the art life. Was that the term?
Yeah.
Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, the art life.
Think that's it. Right, the art life.
It's a wonderful
and that's
life.
the thing. He lived life creatively.
Yeah.
And in a way, that sounds like a pain in the ass on paper, like a guy's a mime or something. But actually, he did it very cool, and like he did live and think creatively. And so, I have many takeaways. I'm obviously a big fan. I can get into my journey because maybe that'll help, because like that's what I'm saying is my most recent intersection with him was with the Weather Report, and I got very sad when it ended. I was like, oh, right, because it was for COVID. And I was like, I was jonesing for it. And I had to adjust that my mornings were now going to be a different thing.
Right.
But now cut back to when I was a kid, it's the 80s. And when I was a kid, my library had all these great books about midnight movies, including, here's just one example.
Oh, yeah. Great.
You guys can see that clearly.
Awesome.
Yep.
That's a good one. Look at
Essential.
That big turtle. Yeah. Very essential.
Yeah.
And I became friendly with the author, by the way.
Yeah.
Right.
Stuart Samuels.
Yep.
So anyway, so when I was a kid, I would read about Eraserhead in this book and books like it.
Yeah.
I would read about Holy Mountain, and I would go, because this is like the mid 80s. I'm never going to see these movies. Like maybe I'll see even Eraserhead. But anyway, to the point, I just read about Eraserhead long before I saw it. And then, and one, let me just give you one example that really spoke to me. That book, Cult Movies by, God damn it, Danny Perry.
Oh, yeah, Danny
Cult
Perry,
Movies.
yeah.
Danny Perry, right. He has a synopsis for all like the 100 movies in the first book. His synopsis for Eraserhead is a quote from David Lynch. It's just a journey of dark and troubling dreams. One sentence.
Great.
That's the plot synopsis.
Beautiful. Love it.
In that book. Yeah. And so that intrigued me. I was like, what the hell?
Well, it's like Inland Empire would be the plot synopsis, a woman in trouble, or whatever. That's it.
Exactly. Okay. So just to break down like my what was happening with me, I was like, okay, David Lynch is one of those guys like John Waters and stuff. But I didn't see the movies. I fantasized about them. Late night movie channel, 1 a.m. I was like 15. I had to go and fucking work and at the supermarket the next day. It was like Friday night. But I stayed up all night and I saw Eraserhead on the movie channel on cable TV, and I was really blown away. But this is my other thing is soon after, PBS for some reason showed his film The Grandmother.
Oh yeah.
Right. And that is amazing. I taped it. It on my old VCR, and I had that tape for years.
That's cool.
It was a big deal because, like, I caught it. Like, you otherwise would not have been able to see The Grandmother for like many decades. So I really loved that film. And that film, in a weird way, I connected to it equally with Eraserhead. It was because it was weird. It was 70s David Lynch in color.
Yeah.
Just right off the bat. That's cool.
That's weird.
And it's like half a feature length film. It's very cool. But I just wanted to piggyback on what you were saying before, Evan, about how this is someone from the medium of paintings. Yeah. And that film is, and the short, The Alphabet, like it's 1 foot in film and 1 foot in, not even animation, but like paintings,
video art.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I found that like, that's a very, like, seek out the Grandmother if you guys haven't seen it.
Oh yeah.
And because it is sort of the middle section is along with Eraserhead. And I found that so rewarding, and I love the soundtrack. And also, like Eraserhead's very harsh, right? But The Grandmother is weirdly very sweet because it is about this little boy who has a horrible domestic life with his terrible parents, and he conjures the thing he's dreaming of, which is a loving family member, and it's this woman, this grandmother, and he grows her, with seeds. And I'm like, it's also him. It's like, because like he's into like what is it, arboretums? What's that word?
Yeah.
Like horticulture and stuff.
Horticulture.
Yeah. So like, like tree health and stuff like that. And this film has a lot of like seeds and stuff. Yeah. So it's just very him, and he's very singular. Yeah. So anyway, so I'm reflecting weirdly on the Grandmother specifically, and I just wanted to literally just recommend that to people if they're watching.
Sweet.
But then the bottom line is everything you guys are saying.
Yeah.
And one of the takeaways I had, and this is the last thing I'll say, is this book is very essential too. I'm just trying to recommend things to people like this.
Oh, yeah.
This one from I think it came out in 2000. It's 1990s interviews.
It's great.
With him. And it's, to me, I've never seen anything where he is less coy,
guarded
about his takes. Like he's less guarded and less kind of like obtuse about like his take on himself and his work and his things. So, but anyway, it's a great book.
And
go ahead.
And I love how David was always protective about like what his films quote unquote mean, because he knows that would be like cringe, to get into like what this quote unquote means, because
Eraserhead explained.
Yeah, right. Because it's so much bigger and more mysterious and heavier.
It's not the point.
It makes it small.
No, totally. I just want to leave one thing. I love that book, and I can't wait to reread it. But there's one thing that he says that makes me love him, because, like I'm saying, it's not his films or his creative work, it's him. And he said this one thing which just kills me. He said, and I'm paraphrasing kind of the context, but it's something about like the mystery of his work, right? Yeah. And he says, it's kind of like if someone in 1921, out of nowhere, just blurted out, Lee Harvey Oswald.
Wow. That's awesome.
Because that is a chilling thought. Someone's like walking down the street, they get out of their Model T and they just go, Lee Harvey Oswald. Motherfucking yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yeah. So that to me is like my David Lynch bumper sticker thought.
Yeah.
It's just so good, right. So unique, so singular.
Perfect.
But also so interesting.
Thought-provoking. Questions. What's the hell?
Exactly.
It's stimulating. It's stimulating, inspiring. It checks all the boxes.
Exactly. All that.
Stimulates the theater of the mind.
Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah. All right. I think we have a caller calling in right now.
Ooh.
From New York City. Rémy, are you there? Rémy Bennett, are you there?
Hello. Hi.
Oh.
I'm here.
Oh, welcome. Hey.
Hey guys.
Hey. Sorry to meet under these circumstances, of course, but wanted you to, because we know David Lynch's work, means a lot to you as well. So wanted to invite you on to share any thoughts or anecdotes, stories, or anything that comes to mind. How are you doing? How are you feeling after this news?
Yeah, this is like a really hard one. This is kind of crazy.
It is.
Yeah. Like Marcus, you were saying, it almost like has that gravity of someone that you knew.
Yeah.
In such a collective way. And it keeps on like kind of hitting me in different ways. And I'm getting very introspective. I think it kind of set off this kind of like little introspective journey a bit. And when I like Evan had told me
I
that
saw
he passed, and it was just like one of those like shock kind of.
Yeah.
And then it felt like that empty feeling of like something is like chipping away at what is good in this world. Like I had a very dark.
That's kind of what I was saying. Yeah.
Like kind of like.
Well, let's not ignore the timing of all this.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And by the way, as we're taping, guys, not to interrupt at all. I'm just saying, like the timing specifically. Tomorrow's the inaugural, Trump's reelection.
Yes, it is.
But it's also David Lynch's birthday, January 20th.
That's right. Holy shit! Wow.
Yeah, just wanted to throw that out. Yeah, right? Am I right?
Yeah, you're right. I'll look it up. But yeah, Rémy, you were saying.
Yeah, I had a moment of almost like I don't really want to live in this world anymore if David Lynch is not. That sounds, I know, sorry to make it sound so dramatic, but it was like the moment of like these people are leaving that are contributing such an essence to what makes life that I care about important.
Right.
And it's like they seem to be all leaving.
Yeah.
And so like I was dark. I was kind of sitting in that. And actually my really good friend from high school, who we shared like a lot of Lynchian moments, a lot of Lynchian love and artistic collaborations. And like, she just called me, she lives in Ireland now. And it was like, I just needed, it was like having that person just even to talk to in that moment. Like I think kind of like saved me because it really did launch into like these deeper discussions, not just about him, but about like the resonance in our lives and how we're thinking about death and meaning and our childhoods and like what art means to us and what we care about. And like we ended up having like, I want to say almost like a 2.5 hour conversation that kind of touched upon all these things about mystery and just kind of like what are the vibrations that he was able to access and channel. And like I want to, once I kind of got out of like the utter darkness, I started to feel like, okay, I want to try to live my life now again in a way that like maybe I was at one point when I was younger, or like that I was touching in a way closer to this sort of like mystery and unconscious and just kind of like embracing the those kind of subterranean frequencies that sometimes you can like lose sight of.
Sure.
And I think like all the things that have been going on and the way the culture is moving and modernity are so like the polar opposite of like the things that he espoused and cared about. In terms of, like, the art of living and choosing the way you want to live your life and being very intentional about it. And right now there's such a constant barrage, this pervasive barrage of influences that I feel like are detracting from that like sort of like simplicity and like the art of living. It's like you don't have to be a quote unquote artist. It's like by appreciating the beauty in life and the moments and the sadness and all of that together in sort of a Buddhist kind of way. Like that is the art
that's
of living.
right. That's what he talks about a lot, and not to get, also grim about present day. Cause because like I said, I think David would have a different take himself. But it's like, we're now also like people are whining about their, minute-long content platform not being, the TikTok, and stuff. And as you were saying, like, that's where this is all headed. We're just headed towards content, and as Marcus pointed out, David was, so against the watching movies on iPhones and stuff. And we're just feels like we are just getting so far away from.
Well, I kept on thinking too about like that idea of like, doom is such a topic now that we all feel like we're doomed. And something that like Lynch talked about so much was like mystery and curiosity. And I was listening to, I think it was Ezra Klein the other day, and he was saying like, this is totally not connected. But he was like, to me, the polar opposite of doom is like mystery. Yeah. And kind of like being open to that discovery. And then I was kind of going like on a Swan's Way thing about all this stuff, because Lynch for me, like I've probably talked to you guys about this a million times, but like Lynch was so my childhood. Like I can't think of my childhood without Lynch. Like that was.
What's the first one you saw?
So actually, the first one I saw was Elephant Man.
Oh wow!
And my parents loved that movie, and like it's so fucking heartbreaking.
They probably showed that to you when you were 4.
Right. So like it was, and then it was obviously Twin Peaks. I was watching that. I was really young. Yeah. And I would go like at school, like to the water cooler with like the principal and the math teacher. And I'd be like, so what do you think about Lord Palmer? And then they would look at me like, what the fuck? Like I was like very, very little. And then it was my dad, when it came out on Laserdisc, we had a Laserdisc player.
Oh, hell yeah.
Which was like my favorite, because it's like they're like records. So we would flip through them and my dad would curate them for us. So it's like every morning or on a Saturday in our PJs, it'd be like we'd flip through the Laserdisc, and look at the picture. It's like looking at a record. Yeah. And so then he bought us the Laserdisc of Twin Peaks. That was like the 3 sets. Oh, yeah. And they each have like an amazing, my mom, I think, got rid of them when they got divorced. Damn. And there's like the really cool images on each one. Like one of them's like the sawmill. Like each of them has like this. And me and my best friend Amanda Pohan, my sister, I just had like the image, like the pajamas, the cereal, and we would always watch like the pilot, and then we'd watch Fire Walk with Me, or we'd watch like the whole. We would do these marathons, and it was like And then I would talk to my dad about it too. Like we would kind of talk about these themes.
Yeah, because he loved it too. He loved all the David Lynch
he's
stuff.
Like
too. Or still does.
I mean, that's his like ultimate, And so I think what now I'm really grateful of is looking back on that like education. It was like so formative in terms of like the way my dad almost like taught me to look at the world and and at art, and like to start having those conversations at a really young age about like what's underneath, what's the symbolism, what's like not being afraid to look at like the darkness. And, and then really we would have these incredible conversations where like, you know, I remember like the little boy and the grandmother, you know, in Fire Walk With Me and the mask.
Garmin Bozia.
Like, and we'll just, and like us talking, like what, you know, he'd be like, what do you think that is? And what do you think that means? And, you know, and kind of,
what did he say?
and like, it was like, just I think the whole thing of like the idea of like the masks that we wear and like the trauma and that in a way like Leland, it's like the child version in a sense, but who's like the and we've talked about this before, but just like the echoes of that trauma that comes in different forms.
Right.
And
Well, this
the
is
way, you know.
Can I just say about your dad too, from a story I've heard too? It's like you guys, I think, or he went, or you both went to see Lost Highway, and he walks out of the theater and he's like, "It's about OJ. It's about OJ Simpson." You know, that was his takeaway. Is that it was like, it's about OJ
before anything was written about it, which is really
like,
fun.
what?
This is weird. I literally remember he was going to the theater to see it. I was like so excited. I wish I was at the Ziegfeld in Midtown. It was like at the premiere.
Yeah,
it was like, I wanted to go so bad, and somehow like I couldn't. I was in bed. It was like, I don't know. And I remember him like waking me up and telling me about the movie, and just being like, "Oh my god!" And he, you know, and he's like, "Yeah, it's about OJ." And then finally seeing it and us having this discussion of like him talking about the idea of like, you know, violence and transgression, and like the idea of like
compartmentalizing
the fugue states and dissociation and like. And for me, I think as a human, like, and an artist and whatever, a thinker, a person, just like the way I love how Lynch gave us this different framework. To like understand those ideas, not with like your brain, but with your like soul and your heart and your, like, it's visceral.
Yeah.
So it's like you can hear about a story, right? Like a true crime story or like a headline. It could be like a girl murdered and found, you know, in a body bag wrapped in plastic, or it could be a girl in LA in a bungalow.
John Benet Ramsey.
Right. But it's like, you know, that's what I love about like Mulholland Drive. It's almost like Mulholland Drive, Inland Empire, Laura Palmer, Lost Highway. It's like almost like this seed of that, the story that you might hear. But then he goes down to that dark journey where like you're in the darkness.
What's so great about him, and it's surprising that not many other filmmakers up until that point, or even people who are influenced by him, explore, is this idea that, like, you know, Lynch is so in tune with consciousness and the idea of the brain and how it functions, and just, you know, general awareness, that like he's one of the only filmmakers that sets a film inside of consciousness. You know, where it's like he's playing with that and playing with how the brain works. It's not just like real life, or like, you know, we're seeing a camera,
like a filmed play.
Yeah, a filmed play. And it's surprising that not that many people have looked into that, you know,
because the mechanisms in which like our psyche operates are through symbols. So it's like, you know, people can interpret it as like, oh, that's so weird, or what is that? What is that like wacky thing? It's like, but no, it's actually closer to reality than most any other depiction.
And you know, we were talking about modern times, and I think one of the things that I keep coming back to that's so distinct from Lynch, like why does he seem so, his approach to things seems so adrift more and more from right now? And I was thinking about it. Right now is very word based. You know, like right now, like for this podcast, you know, like it's word, and he's not. And in that book I was recommending, he does talk about like how words fail so often,
right?
In the wrong hands. And that's why he doesn't want to get into what Blue Velvet's about and stuff like that. But he does say, when there's a poet, and he said, like Bob Dylan, like words can be great, actually, you know, and they can, you know, words in the hands of poets can be wonderful, but words are so downer and prosaic, and so like it anchors you down to like a part of your head that is, and all it's doing, I guess, I'm not even speaking for him, I'm just saying this myself, my observation is like
realism.
It's like words reduce the visual strength of like symbol thinking, you know, and that's where he lives. And there are words in his films, but they're often strange and poetic
and stylized,
and line visually,
and goofy and funny. They're goofy, funny, you know?
Right. It's also, I think, like coming up with a way to tell a story, like a basic story, sometimes in an interesting way, or more thought-provoking way, or a way that can stand the test of time long. You know, like, you know, I've heard people ask him what Eraserhead's about, and he's like, well, it's meant to be abstract, but I know what it means to me, but it's meant to be abstract, but there, so I can't tell you what the meaning is. But if you sort of apply that to like Mulholland Drive, like the story, if you boil it down to what we thought the story was about, it's pretty basic,
Yeah.
But he came up with this way, a really inventive way to tell the story that is compelling and allows you to revisit the story over and over again. If it was told like in a linear fashion, you'd watch it once and be like, okay, I'm done with that, which I think is how everybody else makes movies these days.
Oh, yeah.
They want to just tell the most basic story. And they also want to explain it, like you said, explain everything now is like an origin story too. Like, where did the Wicked Witch come from? Or whatever. Like, let's get into all the details.
It's also almost like the way he's doing it. It's not even thinking like, let me think of the mechanism that I can use narratively, or like from the external. It's like he's starting from like the internal in the psyche, and then through that, it's actually developing something that is so intriguing because it is kind of representing those.
He's working on a different plane.
Processes.
It's on a different plane than other filmmakers, because like other filmmakers are just on the plot device, the narrative, the story and everything. He's working on this.
They're chained to the words on the page.
Right. And he's working on this consciousness layer where the truth or the emotion we get, is the truth in the emotions of the film. And that's what's so powerful about his films. They're not this incomprehensible, obtuse art thing. It is this very relatable, you can feel it. It transcends an art film. It's accessible because you're feeling the emotions of that person or the scene.
They're elemental.
And so that's genius to employ both like this nightmare art film approach and then fusing that with these very sincere emotions about that we can all relate to, of love, loss, trauma, whatever.
Well, what I was thinking about, just want to throw this to you guys, is like, today I was thinking like there's realism in film, like John Cassavetes puts a camera in a guy's face and he's drunk and like, this is the real thing. Or like Charles Bukowski's like, I'm here in the dirt and it's real. And like what I'm saying is realism is usually used, in my opinion, in kind of a macho confrontational way. Like I'm going to rub your face in what's real, man. That's like very much when realism manifests is what I'm trying to say. That's often the context. But he, in a weird way, is an abstract, emotional realist. Yeah. And I'm glad you guys have been all talking about this, like how, like, it is about OJ, and like you were saying that, like, murdered girls, and, news stories. Yeah. And like, in a way, he's making sort of like documentaries about emotional states. What I mean by that is that and this is the big takeaway I had the other day, was like, he doesn't shy away from anything, and he's not doing it. He's not weaponizing, like having confrontational emotional material. He actually, everything's just floating around as clouds, emotional states and like bad, weird vibes and energy and good, beautiful things and bad clouds and, sunny days. It's all floating around, and he's just kind of grabbing it and kind of shaping it and then it's sharing it with everybody. So it's not, of course he's going to deal with the darkest things possible and the lightest things possible, because they're all there and he's not shying away from them. And in a way, the only problem that I could see a David Lynch mind having is that kind of Walt Disney world of like not imagining that there is no dark stuff. You know what I mean? Because it's not one-sided. It's not like it's all sunshine, and roses and happy talk like on the Today Show or whatever, Like, but it's not only just darkness and like blood and screaming and death. It's like it's just they're not even like happening in this in tandem in this binary way. It's just the way I saw it is things are just floating around energies. Yeah. And there's the worst darkness and the brightest brightness, and he's just not shying away from either. He's just going. He's fully facing all the states that are floating around with human energy out there.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally. Yeah.
I like what you're saying about like emotional states. It's like that is what he's like trafficking in. It's like emotional and visceral and subconscious, which is just as real as any of our other experiences.
Exactly.
And so I think that's what I'm trying to also like in my life right now, like tap into, or like, why do we perceive just these like rational, conscious, intentional moments as like being the real part of us or the real part of our lives? Like there's so many other things that are happening simultaneously and parallel experiences in our minds, in our dreams, you know, and I think that's what's so cool about like all the parallel dimensions, like The Return, all of these, Mulholland Drive, he's really that. I mean, that's probably actually more closer to human existence than we allow.
Exactly.
And that was always a work in progress for him, I feel like, you know, going from Blue Velvet to The Return, you know, it's like
each of them is a step towards
step towards like, you know, just this like floating pure consciousness.
Well, it's wild that he can continue to make this thought-provoking abstract work well and later and late into life as well. You know, like you mentioned your parents. My parents saw Eraserhead too and always be like, hey, the baby when I was a kid. To make a movie that my parents freaked out on and then like still make stuff that's confounding like teenagers, like, you know, in the mid 2010s or whatever. It's pretty wild career.
Rémy, is there anything? We have some other callers lined up here that are my box over here is lighting up.
What is this, talk radio?
It is.
It's like
hello, Aspen. What's on your mind?
We got.
I wish we had like 10 hours.
I know.
I think, but that also is what's like. There's nothing I could ever say that could explain how much I love. And
well, we're using all these fucking words.
Yeah,
exactly. And it's what I think. I mean, the thing is, like the richness of the work. It could be. I mean, we could go on and on and on, and like I guess the last thing, like, there's so much I want to say, but I can't say it. But the last point, I guess, is just how, like, even his whole obsession with like the collective consciousness, our dreams, and that the movies are dreams. We're living in our own experiences, and that like almost these things that he created have become like sentient in my mind. Like I really feel like these worlds they do exist, and like Laura Palmer is somewhere, and Lula and Sailor, and like it's like the Wizard of Oz, and like which obviously he was so inspired by, where like we all are sharing in that world. And so we can all be grateful that like that will never leave, you know? And that dream will keep on going.
Yeah. And it's like with Twin Peaks, you know, it's like this thing like that he created that is like this whole universe that so many people, you know, have such a love and reverence for, and they're so deeply connected to it. Like he also has that too. Like he has this cult sort of, you know, fan base for something that he's created too, which is just
I think people connect to him the way they do with music.
Yeah.
Musicians and bands, like which is closer than
it's deeper.
What people do with films. You know, even someone who really loves films or a particular director or something, it's like he connects with them musically. And just we'll maybe talk about this later, but like, guess who was really into music? You know, all this stuff we're talking about, David Lynch. You know what I mean? Like, the power of it. I think in a way his favorite art form to experience was music. He was really enraptured with the power of music for himself, you know, and how it comes to him, and it's beyond words and beyond particular, and it can maybe do more than even he could do with film, but he was very influenced by the power of music, and I see that, you know.
Yeah. I mean,
I guess I should probably get going, right?
We'll just wait till our next caller actually jumps in. We'll get every second here we got with you. But go ahead.
Okay, with music, just, you know, I do, because he talked about, you know, we'll talk in the music and sound and stuff, but he was talking about how, you know, sound will make a picture in his mind that he enjoys looking at, you know. I think it probably was something where he could, you know, we know he would meditate to come up with ideas, you know. And probably listen to music to come up with ideas so he could see, just come out of his consciousness, close your eyes and imagine stuff.
Well, and also he's unique in the fact that, like, again, we always talk about this on the show, how there's directors that care about sound and there's directors that don't, you know, and he's someone who's just so in tune with, right from the beginning, from Eraserhead, who's so in tune with the sonics and the way you can build atmosphere through sound design and through music, whether the music is atonal, you know, or whatever. And so like
melodic,
or melodic, right? And he's so good at that. I mean, he
music too. It's like, you know, I've been reading a lot of like ancient Greek philosophy recently, but Evan knows this because it's like a lot.
Thank you.
But music, it's like they talk about how music was like, you know, deeply, deeply spiritual. And I think like Lynch is connecting on that on the same level with like sound design, where it's like you are the same way we're connecting to like an emotion in one of his films. It's hitting us on like the deepest primal level.
Right.
that is going way beyond what words could ever like capture.
Beyond language.
Yeah.
And there was wait, I gotta find it. I wrote it down somewhere there. Oh, where is it?
Was it
There was a
Aristotle?
Yeah, Aristotle, all that shit. This is not a Greek quote. But okay, someone today I was reading, I forget, it was like a film writer, and he said, in Lynch's world, the mere fact of existence of consciousness can be a cause for terror.
Oh.
So it's like just there's these moments where it triggers something that's like so primal and visceral.
Love it.
And it's just about like grasping what our consciousness is, and it's like a terrifying thing to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Rémy, thank you so much for joining us. We have another caller coming in from Texas right now that we're going to switch to. But thank you. Oh, before we go, we talked about
Tony Hinchcliffe, right?
No, but what I said is
He's got a lot to say about David Lynch's work.
oh my God, that fucker. All right. So listen, Rémy, we're definitely going to have you on Inland Empire. We're definitely going to do that. We're going to do Elephant Man.
Let's
should totally do it.
Elephant Man, Straight Story. We're going to hit them all. And of course, we'll ring Rémy for those. But all right.
We can do Eraserhead too. I mean,
We haven't done that either.
We're infanticide. I'm all
We're going to do them all now. Yeah.
We're going to do them all. All right. I'm going to bring on
guys.
Lars right now. Thanks, Rame. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Okay, peace.
Peace. All right. And okay.
it wasn't recording, right?
No, we are.
Okay. Hey, man.
Oh, we got Lars from
Here. Hi there.
Austin,
That was
Texas.
a smooth transition.
I know.
Yeah.
Not bad, right?
Welcome.
Welcome, Lars. We've been having a very heavy evening here. We just talked to our other guest, and things got real, and we were getting real. We got candles going here. So, what's your reaction to the news? What's your relationship like with David? Take us right into it.
Yeah, I mean, we had probably all been hearing, I mean, even before he had the emphysema announcement, we had probably all been hearing how sick he was.
Yeah.
So it was not that surprising.
Yeah.
It's funny, I had programmed Mulholland Drive during this period, and I had mentioned to my co-programmer, because I had programmed it months ago, and I mentioned my co-programmer, Jasmine, I was kind of like, Lynch is sick. Who knows? Maybe this ends up being a memorial screening. I just kind of mentioned it in passing.
Whoa.
And it ended up that our screenings start like in 3 days. So
Wow.
Oh.
it ended up like being kind of a memorial screening.
Oh.
I have like a long history with Lynch myself because I was born in 1971. So my first guy was like Woody Allen. Like our local video store had like a director's wall, which is very unusual, in small town North Carolina. But like, it was like, oh, first director, Woody Allen. This guy's a famous director. So watch all this stuff. And then
Right.
at some point, you start watching a lot of these movies, and David Lynch kind of became, I watched Blue Velvet, and when it was fairly new on the shelf, and David Lynch became my guy. It was just like my A1, number one guy.
Yeah.
And I watched Eraserhead when I was in high school and loved it. And I would go around telling people, I was like, it's a nightmare. He actually brought a nightmare on the whole thing is just a nightmare. Like, that's all you need to understand it. It's a nightmare.
Right.
And like all the symbols and everything, it's like, this is a nightmare. And this guy, this fucking genius, made a nightmare and put it on film. So like, and that was me. And nobody cared.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
They were busy. They wanted to watch Dirty Dancing.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
It was that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It was that kind of era. But I mean, I had my druggy friends and stuff, and we would, watch The Song Remains the Same and
Ooh.
that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
so I was the one who was bringing like David Lynch movies into that
Right.
mix.
Yeah.
Nice.
For my stoner crowd of friends. But it's so funny because it was as much about the soundtracks as it was about the movies for me.
Oh yeah.
Having the tapes, having that Maurice Sarabande tape, Blue Velvet soundtrack, and listening to that, and just having that music, having it in my car, having it as I drove around, having it as I would get stoned in my room.
Wow.
That's dope.
That music, that soundtrack particularly, and then once the Twin Peaks TV show soundtrack came out. I bought that.
Oh yeah.
And the Julie Cruz album and all that stuff. Like I was,
Wow.
it was more than just a matter of just watching the movies, because I was, I wasn't even like a big movie rewatcher. It was about going around and living in that headspace, that Lynchy kind of headspace for me through the music. So
Staying
the music
in
was
the
more
worlds,
important than anything else.
like after the films had ended, you still wanted to inhabit those worlds, even just sonically,
I wanted to inhabit that kind of life, I wanted to inhabit an exciting, rich inner life, There was something that I didn't see around me that much. And it's funny, I started meditating as a teenager,
Wow.
under the influence of David Lynch.
Snap.
And my parents' like bookshelf, but Alan Watts books and stuff, and
Sure.
P.T. Suzuki books, but it was like David Lynch was the one who kind of convinced me, like, maybe this isn't some hippy dippy shit.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, this is a guy who was, and this is a point all in and of itself, was as famous as anybody. I could have asked a cop on the beat, what do you think about David Lynch? And he would have an opinion.
Yeah, that's
Like, David
right.
Lynch
We
was
were
down.
talking about
I know.
that. Yeah.
Well, we were saying, this guy wound up on the cover of Time magazine.
Yeah. Like
He was a character in our national sitcom. Our national sitcom had room for that character.
Yeah,
And it
that's
was a David Lynch character.
well. That's what we were saying. We were talking about. Also, we didn't even properly introduce you. Lars Nilsen of the Austin Film Society. He's been on the show many times. Before, in case you're new to the show. But Lars, we were just talking about how, like, what a special time, late 70s, early 80s were for, like, when the mainstream would foster a guy like him. Like this guy who made a nightmare, now we're going to give him the keys to the studio and he's going to make a film that we're going to release, and he's part of the zeitgeist. No, we're going to give him prime time, on fucking ABC, and what a special time. And the fact that he was able to connect to make commerce work and the business side of the business work, but yet he's this fucking really deeply abstract artist and visionary.
And it's amazing. And it's not for him compromising really either.
Not really. I guess really. Dune maybe, but who cares?
It wasn't just in, like we say, the 80s,
yeah, it
wasn't just the 80s.
That's right.
It was really the ass end of the 80s. It was just super moribund time. Like Punky Brewster and Alf were like the big shows. Well, it really wasn't just the 80s, because if you think of the 80s, you're like, oh, Night Court.
Right. I know what you mean.
No,
it's Ice time.
Really bad
Vanilla
period.
Vanilla Ice.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Well, it's right before Nirvana. Not to get there you go. Not to get too cringe, but like it's just that sweet spot, but right before Nevermind comes out.
Right.
Where like I always think of it as like the 80s got the most 80s at the very end. It just really cranked up and became what is it like? What you guys helped me, because I was on LSD at the time. I wasn't paying any attention. But it was like Roseanne. What was big? Like Andrew Dice Clay and like Roseanne.
I was 2. I was
what
3.
else is going on?
That song, Pink Cadillac.
Sure. Cherry Pie, Warrant.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
JD Lane.
That's rough, dude.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really dumb time for culture.
Yeah,
like
true.
Even among some other really pretty dumb times. But there was a mainstream, which is something you can't really say anymore. I mean,
yeah.
There was a thing where there was a commonality of people knowing what a thing is. There may be, I don't think there's anything equally as good as David Lynch, but there may be like amazing stuff going on right now.
Yeah.
In the world of anime or something that I don't know about.
Right.
And people are maybe having this incredibly rich experience in that, but they're not having a rich experience that other people are sharing.
Right.
They're not having a rich experience that other people are able to get in on. But the thing about like the spirituality side of it, even if you would call it spirituality or what, but like the meditation thing, and I think we all hear that, and we all, I mean, I don't think you guys roll your eyes at it or anything, but like probably a lot of people hear it and they go, "Oh, that's a weird aspect of it." But
no, it's great.
This is a guy who had an expressway to his unconscious.
Yes.
And he used it all the time, and he told us how to do it.
I know.
He told us how to get it.
Yeah.
And that's really amazing. And we sort of think of it like, oh, I guess he had this hippie angle with like meditation. No, that was his expressway to his own unconscious.
Yeah.
He wasn't hiding it. He absolutely told everybody, here's how I did it. Here's how I did it. I mean, was an absolute promoter of
He was evangelical about it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
because it really worked.
Like, where does he get all these weird ideas? And he was just like, here's where I get all these weird ideas.
Right.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
as big a promoter as like George Harrison for
Yeah.
it, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, and it worked, for him. We could see it. We could see it in these movies that, like, holy shit. We were just talking about, with our last guest, Rémy, we were just talking about how, he's one of the only filmmakers that's working on this, like, deeper layer of consciousness, like setting films inside the consciousness of other people. Like, people don't do that, and if they try, maybe they're not as successful. But it's a small number of people who are trying that. And it really works with his films. And it's obviously like he got tapped into something that nobody else is willing to, like, take that journey to do.
If I could interject something just right, because we talked about this too earlier, it's like the real magic for me is what he wants to be doing, which is, harnessing all this stuff floating around, in the collective unconscious and everything.
Yeah.
And manifesting consciousness. But he was also this other thing, which makes it so incredible. He was so talented. It had such a great eye and such a great ear, because it could be rendered a little clumsy or kind of flat, but he really had great taste, visually and sonically. So that really makes it go even further, because he was truly an artist. And like we were saying, his first discipline was painting.
Yeah.
He's applying film to him is still basically, I feel like he always wanted to make moving paintings.
Yeah.
With music playing, because he really loved the power of music.
He wanted to, I think the brilliance of him is, everything you just said, but he's like so leading with the emotion and getting the emotion of a viewer, and really playing into that, because these films are so emotional, whether they're terrifying or whether they're beautiful, tragic, or there's like this just transcendental sadness or transcendental
or like
beauty.
Straight Story, where like the weirdness is gone and it is just a big emotional journey for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So it's like he's smart in that, he balances. That's maybe why he works commercially, right? Because he balances like the hard art side, which is amazing and incredible, with like this very relatable emotional resonance.
Well, it's a generous kind of hard art, It's not obnoxious
it's
and
right.
alienating.
True. It's not. No, of course.
It's funny when you see him kind of in that world of the alienating hard artists. He became, like, when you see him in like an interview magazine or in that kind of world, where they're all kind of trying to sort of join up and co-opt with him, and he's just a guy who eats at Big Boys,
Yeah, right. Let's talk about bananas.
Yeah.
He truly loved a kind of middle class, good bougie, sort of American, post-war way of life. And he wanted to show that it was actually I think he wanted to show that it actually was a rich and shadowed, way of life. When he shows like the dark side of it, and like particularly in like Blue Velvet, just seeing that dark side of this kind of Leave It to Beaver-ish post-war world that everyone kind of knew and was familiar with, and he was showing us just the shadow layer of it.
Yeah.
But, and we were talking about this before, what I like is that his stance, if he was, kind of exposing the dark underbelly of something that's usually like Mickey Mouse and Happy Face, he wasn't weaponizing it and doing it in this sort of with a grudge and is like revengeful, like, look at your hypocrite, like, I'm going to pop the bubble of your hypocrisy of homogeny. It was much more layered and nuanced, and more, of course, I think ultimately interesting. Yeah, because he was just laying it out there, like he just was sort of
It was, oh wow, look what's under this rock.
Right.
It wasn't like an
describing
indictment.
that Gen X punk kind of like Leave It to Beaver sucks.
Exactly.
But like, I mean, Laura Dern mentioned there's some documentary talking about Blue Velvet, and she's like talking about the end there where he's like got the girl and he's in the house and the car and the blue bird of happiness, whatever. She's like, I think he really believes in that 50s American dream,
Right.
Yeah. And that's what he's saying is like underneath it all, it's still the beauty of the American dream is still possible. Yeah. So he did have this really positive.
He has this
belief in them.
Yeah. And he has this whole thing where I was watching him today. There's a documentary about his TM side of his interests. That's very interesting. And he's talking about this whole thing about like, negative energy, and the darkness. And he says, but then, when there's darkness, the sun comes out and it washes away all the darkness and there's bliss. I love when he says bliss. and it's true. I mean, he does have this kind of positive outlook.
Yes.
That's going to wash away. So something's going to wash away all the darkness, and there's going to be this. There is beauty still in all this.
Well, like the very last, the final note of Eraserhead, his first feature.
Yeah.
I mean, that movie gets very dark.
Yeah.
I mean, he kills this mutated baby. If you just look at it, flatly, like that's what's happening.
Yeah.
And and he's like, it's like infanticide and everything. And then like through however you want to interpret it, though, it does feel like he's in heaven with glowing white light surrounding this figure that has a significance to him, this smiling, loving woman,
right?
Not unlike the grandmother and the grandmother,
right?
And it does end in white. And it's like right in his first film, you see that the note that's left on. But I was thinking about this the other day. Talking to someone, and I feel like one of the films that doesn't really maybe end with the pure light is Mulholland Drive. It that's maybe the most sour note, final note.
Fire Walk with Me.
What starts with the pure light?
Yeah,
like
that's true.
I'm just here in this dream place.
No, but I'm saying the end, like because he's usually like kind of trying to like the end of Blue Velvet. I just thought asking you guys like what you might be thinking. Like, is Mulholland Drive kind of distinct?
Well, Fire Walk with Me.
Then again, Lost Highway is very dark.
That's the darkest.
Maybe
Lost
that's
Highway.
the darkest.
His head
Anyway.
explodes. But
I'm
then
just thinking about the final notes
Yeah.
of each film.
Yeah, it's kind of a mixture. I mean, Fire Walk with Me is dark, but it's terrifying.
What's the final note? She is kind of in the light.
There's the angel.
The angel in pure white light again, which is like Eraserhead.
That's true. And then Wild at Heart has sort of pretty much a happy.
That's an angel in the sky too.
Ending.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But Lost Highway is like his head explodes,
dude.
And I don't know.
Cut to credits. Yeah, that's the one. Thank you. That's the one. That's dark.
Yeah, that is.
That
dark.
one is very dark. There's not a whole lot of like levity to grab onto with that,
or
one.
light.
Yeah, or light.
Yeah, it's not very funny either.
Right. No, exactly.
Speaking of funny, I feel like I've got to and laughing.
Yes.
I've got to talk about Lynch's unique place with repertory theater audiences.
Yes.
Ooh.
Please.
As axiomatically, the worst audiences are David Lynch.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Spill some tea, bro.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, you guys.
Go ahead.
Let's hear it.
You guys are a little bit out of the world of repertory, but I'm there every day, literally.
I love it.
Right.
The employees, they're like, oh, a David Lynch movie. Oh, Jesus.
Well.
Oh God.
Because it's going to bring in a crowd of amazing people, like great people on one hand, but then also sort of an adjunct crowd of people who are just like,
yeah, I know what you mean.
Ostentatiously at all times. Like
I
there
know.
might even be something that's like,
I know what
I
you
mean,
mean.
there's a lot that's funny in David Lynch movies,
Yeah.
but a lot of times it's like, it's not like ha ha ha.
Right, like you're saying, ostentatiously laughing. Like I get like in American Scooby at the end of.
What do we call that, Tom? We call that something like the Williamsburg giggles. What do we call that?
Yeah.
We call.
Well, it's like the
Yeah.
Well, it's the end of storytelling.
It is.
you were
It
saying,
is.
But
it's like
it's the cynical laugh. Yeah,
it's-
the Williamsburg guffaw.
Yeah. where it's a cynical viewpoint of this stuff because they are laughing down at it, and
they're
that's
laughing down at it because they think it. I mean, the whole perception. It's like there are no strings attaching this to any part of reality or actual
right
motion,
uncomfortable,
which is partly because a lot of the moving image content they've seen hasn't had any
none of
strings
this
attached to any kind of real emotion.
Right.
But they like if you were to ask them what did you think afterwards, they'd be like, dude, that was so random.
Oh God,
please kill me. Right?
Yeah, please.
Give me a cyanide pellet right now.
But Blue Velvet is maybe the worst to see with a modern audience. I feel like because it's got so many cultural buzz phrases, with the Heineken.
That shit.
It brings in a lot
throwing sporks at the screen, kind of.
Yeah, and it kind of brings in the people to interact with. They feel like they can interact with that film, and
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
a lot of films have gone through the Lebowski cycle, and it's just I don't know what you can do about it. It's like where the Big Lebowski was good,
Yeah.
and now it's not good anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, Blue Velvet is still.
I think
good.
it's coming
Still
around again, though.
Yeah.
I think it might come around again where, I don't know. But go on.
But you know what? Back to just maybe for a second, back to Lost Highway. They can't crack that nut.
They can't. Yeah.
That one's
True.
can't be laughed away.
No.
Like
Robert,
knowingly.
Robert Blake's face can't be laughed away.
No.
Well, there's that, yeah. But just like the film is so dark that you can't beat it with like a cynical laugh.
Right.
True. Yeah. Yeah, that
There's
is
always
the thing,
been that
though.
contingent of people that's like that just saw his work as weird or strange, but still watched it and didn't dig deeper.
In the way
Weird.
that I would look at like a Japanese game show with no context, no social context
Right.
at all. It's just delightfully strange and unaccountable.
Right.
Well, you guys, I wouldn't mind talking about this with you guys for a second. You're a good group to talk about this. Like, there is a bit of a journey between Blue Velvet, Wild at Heart, to Fire Walk with Me, and like someone like a Quentin Tarantino, for instance, he had a lot of problems with Fire Walk with Me because he was such a fan, like everyone with Blue Velvet.
Yeah,
and I think that the randomness, specifically of Fire Walk with Me, which is distinct randomness from something like Blue Velvet, which is pretty grounded in its narrative. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like reality, more or less, is always happening in Blue Velvet. I got it.
it's consistent.
So, yeah. So all I'm saying is this: I just want to hear what you guys think. Like, he was digged at people who were fans of his by the randomness, and it was parodied on like Family Guy eventually, where it's just like, hey, the backwards talking dwarf.
It was on Sesame Street.
SNL.
Sesame
Yeah.
Street.
So
too.
what do you guys think of that? Where maybe he allowed himself to be dismissed and be parodied quickly through like the tropes of like random for random's sake, strangeness for strangeness sake. What do you guys think of like?
Well,
like,
I mean, it's interesting
how that happened.
I don't know if this is related to that. Maybe it is loosely, but it was interesting. I don't know if you saw Tim Heidecker's post, and he was sort of talking about how like all the stuff you saw on Tim and Eric, this and that and this and that. That's all David. Like we were so inspired by all that stuff. So there is some part of him and his work that resonated, with people who found humor in the strange, or who found, because there is something so, Lynch is so authentic, as we said earlier, so pure, that to him, this is just that natural extension of his brain, But to other people who aren't on that same wavelength, it is kind of like,
it's like, hey, like, look, I woke up in the morning and I thought there should be an African-American midget with a weird big nose.
Right.
And he's walking backwards.
Yeah, right.
What? Like, like that's to me is a valid, an idea as, something more grounded, like in Blue Velvet.
And that's so not, in line with just the way the world functions, like in all the media that we consume in other places. And so I think it's so wildly out there. And he was really the first to push that, I think, so far, with Twin Peaks, something that's on primetime television, for Christ's sake. I mean, you saw The Giant, and I'm trying to think of some of the other set pieces of this first season that's in prime time. That's like 30 million plus people watching that, every week. And it's nobody at that point had in that level of, watching TV at prime time has seen anything like that. So I think that's just the natural response is the parody.
He became a hunted figure in the culture for a while, because he had a TV show that faltered.
That's true too,
So,
which came
like,
later.
If you become like, I remember the movie Grindhouse coming out. You remember that? It was like the new movie. Of course you do. It was not good, but it was like for a while. The PR was just like pumping up Grindhouse movies. Yeah, Grindhouse. Don't you love them? And then the most predictable thing in the world that could ever happen is that movie tanks, and then everybody's like, ugh. Grindhouse movies, I hate them.
Yeah.
So it's like, because it became identified with this sort of unsuccessful cultural gambit. So you're fair game at that point. At that point, you're just kind of hanging out there, and everybody can take a bite out of you.
Yeah.
It was hugely,
it became maligned
for a half a season.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. Well, the bigger you are, the harder you fall.
And it was the thing that everybody was just like, it's confusing. I don't like it anymore. And then for the audacity of that to come out then with like a feature film
that was not.
that also tanks, that I watched 4 times in the theater in the first week because I knew that it was
Whoa.
Holy
and
shit!
because I loved it.
Right.
Still love
Wow.
it.
I still love it too. I'm a big fan. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and when I say soundtracks, I was like driving around, boom, boom, boom.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Listening to that jam.
Oh, you mean from the One Eye? Is that the
Power
One Eye
Mad.
Jacks?
One Eye Jack's theme song.
Oh.
Yeah. The Gold Room or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Dong,
But anyway,
dong,
like at that point,
Yeah.
he became a vulnerable figure in the culture because he had a TV show that was perceived as like, oh, that guy failed. Didn't that guy fail 2 years ago?
And also,
I think
people would
I felt-
think.
Well, I fell into that too. I mean, I remember we talked about on our Mulholland Drive episode. I was surprised when that movie came out, and I loved it. I dismissed it at first because I thought like, oh, his career's over. I just thought like, whatever, he made another movie. But when I saw it, I couldn't believe he pumped out something that was like that I loved on an equal level as Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
It was a great, pleasant surprise to see.
But I had
about
written him off
this?
before that.
How about this to go with we were talking about earlier, just the sort of influencing people through these reverberations. It's like, David Chase, obviously would, famously be influenced by Twin Peaks and, giving his sort of Tony Soprano world.
Kevin Finnerty? Finnerty?
No, but like giving it Kevin Finnerty, but also like those surreal set pieces and everything. Yeah. Like, I mean, he owes like everything to Twin Peaks.
The chocolate bullets.
Talking
fish.
The talking fish, all that stuff. So it did make just a huge impact on the next gen, and for whatever, for better or for worse. Because we said earlier, there are a lot of people who resonated with his work, but didn't quite understand the plane in which he was.
I think the worst take that people had, I'm remembering these days 30 years ago, is that he's a bullshit artist, and it's like I see right through it. It's a gimmick. Like you just like it's the way South Park would criticize. It's like the way South Park criticized Family Guy cutaways and stuff. It'd be like just go like. You know what I mean? Like it would be like
people writing off modern art or whatever, like
and it's just like, and it's not even just like that to be dismissive, but it's like this guy, his persona's fake. I'm David Lynch. I'm quirky. I'm weird, and I think that was I didn't like that turn that took, where everyone thought for a moment that he was it was all a put on, a ripoff.
As if he had chosen to do that as like this sure track to success.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's
kind of pull the wool over their eyes
because like a lot of people are very uncurious and would look at, like I said earlier, just like and would just see that as weird. It is strange, or it is cool that he was able to have a career and people watched it anyway. People went to see his movies anyway, even though they might just go out and that was weird, and that would be their whole reaction. They're uncurious. They didn't dig any deeper into it. It's pretty, he makes challenging films, but was successful as a popular artist, in this business
that delivered things that people genuinely liked.
Yeah.
In film. That regular people that like maybe our parents, I don't know, but like regular people could go and watch it, and it's like Kyle MacLachlan's a really handsome movie star, and people like that.
Oh yeah,
right.
His films are full of like beautiful women, and people have always loved to go watch beautiful women on screen.
Yeah.
There are like conflicts and emotions, and we see marriages that feel a lot more like real marriages than almost any marriage that I've seen in movies.
True. Yeah.
Like, so all of those things are things that people actually respond to, and it's not like, oh, this is just quirky, because like if he, I mean, obviously he's not a fake talent. We're all in agreement on that. But if he had been, like, he'd be making fake art that wouldn't resonate on any level.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Right.
Well, and also just
what they wanted.
like you're saying now, it just speaking to back what I was saying earlier, which is like he has so much raw talent, and he saw and knew the power of film. And people, even if they were confused or getting kind of bored or they thought it was a ripoff, it's undeniable there's a power, because he had such a command of the art form, of how a film could look and should look and sound, because he understood and had a great eye and a great ear, like I've been saying, to make them look like classic film, like suitable for framing compositions and stuff like that, unforgettable moments,
haunting set pieces.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the most visceral,
like the drive,
shit
like
you've
Wild
ever
Heart's
seen.
a little bumpy.
Yeah,
just Wild Heart's a little bumpy, but I think it's undeniable when they're driving in the desert and they find the car accident with Cheryl and Fenn.
Yeah.
That's kill. Oh, and the Chris Isaac song's playing. That's just killer. That's just like good killer movie making stuff.
He makes some of the most visceral set pieces anyone's ever done because he's firing on all cylinders. He's like, as we mentioned earlier, he's got the sound on lockdown, he's got the music on lockdown, the visuals, and he's got this very stylized, performative acting style that he, injects, which, and it's awesome. Like that sort of nightmare version of, like 1950s, 60s television, sitcom. It's like a nightmare sitcom. It's such a great, palette to play in.
If you go back and watch Dragnet, the 67 Dragnet, which were all directed by Jack Webb.
Yeah, right.
That's the secret performance director mentor of David Lynch.
That's amazing.
Go back and watch those shows.
Totally.
See a Lynchian style of performance in all of those shows. That's
I love
Jack
that.
Webb's direction of actors.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's the facts, man.
So Lars, we have we have one more caller that's going to be
we got
calling
Barack Obama on the line. So for some reason he wants to check.
Yeah, he wants to say a few things.
I will say, like, in conclusion to my module here, it's like David Lynch was so technically pure and good and had such a vision that the only person who could ever even hope to duplicate even the feel of what he was doing was Oliver Stone in Wild Palms.
Oh, you're madman. You are out of control.
Wait.
Get that Limp Bizkit drop. One more time.
I've never seen Wild Palms.
Oh my God.
I knew that.
Yeah.
But now I want to watch it. Is Jim Belushi in Wild Palms?
Yeah.
Oh, we should
that's
do
all I
that.
need to hear.
Go read some plot synopses of Wild Palms. It sounds. I'm like,
does someone have it? This is an emergency. Like,
All right, I'll
get us the basic synopsis of Wild Palms. Fuck, dude. A knockoff Twin Peaks. Yeah.
Wild Palms
I need to see
synopsis.
It's shortest paragraph.
It's coming. Wait, it was a TV show, right? Was it a TV show?
Yeah, it's a TV miniseries.
Absolutely.
I never saw it. Okay, it's a 5-hour miniseries which was produced by Greengrass Productions and first aired on ABC in '93. Holy shit. Sci-fi drama announced as an event series deals with the danger of politically motivated abuse of mass media technology and virtual realities in particular. That's what it says.
But it was supposed to be like the weirdness of Twin Peaks.
Oh,
sure.
Kind of be like.
Yeah, I remember that promotion.
All right,
Well,
Lars.
that's your homework, everybody.
That's your homework.
Everyone has to watch the entire Wild Palms show.
Yes. Okay. Lars,
All right,
great
so,
to have
Lars,
you,
thank you.
Here. We're also definitely got to have you back on the show to cover something soon. It feels like it's been
we're
a
going to
minute.
do more Lynch, we were saying.
Yeah, we're going to do more Lynch down the line. We got other shit too. We haven't announced yet, but we're going to hit you up because we definitely want you back on the show.
I always like when Lars throws a curveball at us too.
No, you don't.
So.
No. We like curveballs.
We do.
Like it.
I like the idea.
No, you
of
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you might like it. Okay. All right, Lars. Well, we're gonna take a call from Los Angeles next. So thank you very much, and
man.
we will
Great
see
to hear
you.
from you.
We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Lars.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get Lars out, and next guest is joining. Oh, it's Joey from.
Wow. So I love how like this camera is a fugue state. And, like, you're the third identity occupying that space.
I know it is. It's
You
great.
were a woman.
Yeah, you were a
Or a
woman.
guy in Texas.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Indigo.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So everybody, welcome.
Lost highway shit.
Welcome to
you
the
very
show, Joey Izzo. Of course, you might recognize him. He's been on he's been on this fine program many
What
times.
has he done with on the show?
He did Things with us.
I did things.
He did.
What else?
No, he did.
Things.
Spike Jones
Things.
adaptation.
Oh yeah, adaptation. That was a good one.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
We did,
that's cool.
A Patreon one as well.
Yeah, we did
That
some
was kinda-
Patreon stuff. So you might recognize Joey, filmmaker based in Los Angeles, good friend of mine from back in the day. But
I need to square up a little there.
yeah,
Yeah. How?
just move your body or
Move over here.
No, it's reversed, so you're okay
Oh,
though.
okay.
But Joey, obviously we're here, under these unfortunate circumstances. We've had a great time reminiscing with other folks, just, sharing memories, anecdotes about David Lynch, stuff from his films, personal, stories as well too. So just wanted to check in with you. How are you doing? How is the news? Obviously super heavy. But just, take it away.
What's on your mind?
Well, I mean, it hit me like a ton of bricks, kind of like when it happened. I mean, I'm sure you guys are aware it's not going so great in Los Angeles right now. And so we've kind of all already been kind of on high alert. And so for this coming, it just felt like a part of the horror, that like the onslaught of kind of like unexpected disaster or just sort of doom and sadness. And so it hit me pretty hard, but honestly, I think it was the second day yesterday where I kind of had a little bit more time to think about my relationship with Lynch. And I was hanging out with some friends, and it was like 11 p.m. and I actually moved close to Burbank now. And so I went to Bob's Big Boy at like 11 p.m. And they have please show the photo. I took that at like 11:30 or something. I offered a cigarette to
that's like an altar.
Yeah, there's all
there's
all the flowers, and there's like gifts and cards and candles next
Somebody
to the
has
Bob's
a 7-inch
Big Boy.
of Roy Orbison's In Dreams there. You can see that in the front there.
Right.
Oh, nice.
Right. And just for the audience that doesn't know, like when he was making Dune, right, he would go there every day and like at 2:30 and get a burger and fries. And sometimes his daughter would be there and drink a milkshake and drink coffee and get all jacked up on sugar and write ideas.
He drank huge milkshakes.
Yeah, he'd always say that
coffee.
He'd always say that 2:30 was the perfect time to get there, because then nobody's using the malt machine at that time, so it has a chance to congeal and get frozen. Because if you came during the lunch rush, it would be all just liquid in there, and so because it's being used
they got
so
a
much.
photo of him. They got a photo of Kyle. They got the whole gang up there.
Also,
so he's like knighted at Bob's.
Yeah, that's like his spot, and I'm not surprised there was an Insta shrine there. But the other thing that always gets me is there's this like the greatest photo ever, which is at Bob's Big Boy. John Waters and David Lynch are like shaking hands as if like it's like this ambassadorship thing, from their two different planets. And that's like the greatest picture ever. And they're between Bob is between them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Bob's between them.
Yeah.
Bob. Oh, I never realized that.
I know. Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and last night, I was continuing after Bob's, like thinking about my relationship, and I was trying to think about something to bring to the table, tonight. Yeah. And, I mean, Lynch for me, I want to talk about a specific time, like 2002 to 2003. I had graduated high school, and I was a new college film student, and I was well aware of Lynch, and I was already a huge fan, but I hadn't seen Eraserhead. Like, I lived in the burbs. It wasn't available. It wasn't on DVD. And the only way that you can get it was on davidlynch.com.
The website.
And so I went on the Wayback Machine and I was looking at his old website because I was obsessed with it. And it was really early, like Flash website, very artful, kind of looks in style of Eraserhead. And you could get two things in the shop.
That's right.
Short film collection.
Short films.
Or Eraserhead.
And it came in this like
download.
No, it came in this square box.
A square box.
And and it had like a slipped cover of the Eraserhead, Jack Nance. And then you took off the slipcase, and it unfolded in this very abstract, artful way.
Truly one of the most beautiful DVDs, I think.
And then there's a DVD in there. You brought me back to that because Joey and I, same gen. We were we're same gen. We're also like super DVD guys. So it's no mystery that we both would have been doing exactly this at the exact time.
And on this site, this was where he had like a Can Diary, like this really strange series, and it was called the Can Diary.
That's right.
And it was like him at the Cannes Film Festival, and I believe the weather reports might have started there. And
he did the interview
really
project.
Weird...
Didn't he do the interview project? Was on that too?
Yeah, it was. It was. So I mean,
is that where Dumbland came from? that like animation.
Oh,
that he
you know
did?
what? He did release Dumbland
Later.
through the website shortly
It was like
thereafter.
2002,
but
I
it
know.
was in that same fucking box, same shape.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Dumbland
Yeah.
is nuts. I would recommend that.
Yeah, same. Yeah, great stuff.
And and when I got a Eraserhead, it was like $35, which was pretty expensive, back then. And
Yeah.
I was so excited about it after I'd watched it several times. It was the first movie that I had done like a proper. It was the first screening I ever hosted. Like I had all my friends over to my basement, and like my friend's basement, and I did this speech beforehand and showed the movie, and it blew so many minds.
That's awesome.
And so that it's really like a special moment for me, and like Eraserhead particularly like was just such like a growth period, and I did want to bring one thing, Evan. I think you'll maybe recognize this. So it came in a big square box, right?
Do you have it still?
And I unfortunately, as Evan might know, I've sold all my DVDs when I worked at Amoeba. So
I forced him to.
Eraserhead is long gone.
Oh,
sorry, my fault.
What I kept all these years, like over 20 years now, is this.
Whoa.
Oh, zoom out. Bring it back.
What is that? What is sneakers?
That is a shoebox. This is a shoebox. It says David Lynch.
Whoa.
And if you bought anything off the website, it came delivered
in the box.
Shit.
In the box.
Damn.
Nice.
Yeah. And I kept the
That's
box.
awesome.
I mean, and interestingly enough, what I kept in this is a lot of like artifacts from my like kind of film development, my film career, going to film festivals. That's where my laurels are,
wow,
like my lanyards and like,
nice.
little ticket stubs from important movies in my life and special letters. So I just think it's really
the keepsake box.
Interesting that I kept some of the most like, if God forbid, if the fire does come towards me, I'm taking this. I'm taking the Lynch box.
Right.
It has all the things I can't replace.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I just think it's kind of interesting. I put all that stuff in here.
That is a special relic.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So he occupies, I feel like I'm just kind of putting the pieces together now, but there's something that I wanted to put all my most important things in that box.
Yeah.
It's just a cardboard box, but
I love that. That's so that's bringing back like some hardcore memories, because I'm sure I got that box. I had that same box.
Do you still have it, Evan? The whole kit?
I don't.
DVD?
Because I like upgraded, like
jive turkeys.
I know.
Upgrade.
Well, like when it came out on Blu-ray, and yeah, I know. But now it
was
seems
actually
dumb.
called, and I believe it came out on a normal DVD package.
Eventually,
eventually. Yeah. But it was called Eraserhead 2000.
That's right, and it said. Yeah, it said Eraserhead 2000 on it. That's
like
right.
on the spine.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, like
eBay.
I feel like our generation, like you guys had seen Eraserhead by that point. I am damn sure, but like, it was unavailable to us. Kind of.
It was. You couldn't get it anywhere. Couldn't get it anywhere.
Yeah, it just became available. So I had only read about it and was a big fan of. Well, I think I started with Lost Highway. That came out when I was in middle school.
Oh, sick. Well, I was saying before that when I was a kid, I had read.
Here, Tom, look at this real quick.
Dude, yes.
That's like what it looks like.
I kind of need to shop around.
Gotta get it. Yeah.
But all I was saying was like when I was a kid at the library, I'd get these midnight movie books. So what I was saying is I was reading about all these movies, including Eraserhead, and I would just fantasize like, what is this going to be? And then thankfully the movie channel played it at 1 o'clock in the morning when I was like 15 years old, and I recorded it. And so because, it wasn't readily available, so, so it's always been a little bit of thing.
I feel like I saw the VHS as a kid, because that image is burned in my head.
That did come out. But it wasn't at all the video stores.
You had to be in like San Francisco or something, it wasn't in Belmont Video. Where,
exactly. It was a niche.
In the cult section, though.
What was that?
Yeah, for sure.
Marcus?
Show that shit off, man. This is one of the great things that Marcus and I did.
That's so cool.
It's probably not raw. This is actually, it's a lenticular. It's not going to show on this, I don't think.
Yeah.
The sparkle particles float in the air. So
his background is like 3-dimensional.
We should send this to somebody. I mean, maybe someone.
Well, if I can, I just want to say I did meet David Lynch, And he came to the Santa family, and I gave him one of those postcards.
Right.
And he was very nice. And I made a stupid joke because when I get nervous, that's what I do. So I go, "Oh yeah, look at this postcard, David Lynch." And he's like, "Oh, that's very cool." And I was like, "And half price for you, man." You know?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Yeah,
and
good.
he laughed like that.
That's
He's very nice.
Wonderful.
Yeah, exactly. No, and he's
Tremendous.
mainly, this is the patio. I just figured we'd maybe mention this. Like I was in the patio, or he came into the patio because we were going to have a celebration of Ben Barinholtz. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Right. And Ben was going to come to the theater, but Ben couldn't make. He's very old, and he died soon after. But he's on the phone with us, and David was talking to Ben, and really the way you get David Lynch to show up is just to go, "We're going to celebrate Ben Barinholtz," and he went like, "Click, I'm there," you know, and because he was like this. Ben Barinholtz made me, you know, like Ben Barinholtz was the only guy who took a chance on Eraserhead. So anyway, he came by, very great, and he gave a nice handshake and a warm smile, and he told me like, "Good luck with the theater."
Yeah.
And then like 5 days later, it wasn't so good. And all
theater,
I remember, he drank
Shut down.
wine, and he was very gracious and everything you would hope for. You know, very mellow.
That's great. That's awesome.
That's really nice.
Joey, any like do you have like any personal favorite David Lynch film? I'm curious, like what's your number one, or like maybe perhaps do you have memories of the first one you ever saw?
Yeah, I mean, my favorite one, I'm gonna say Mulholland Drive.
Okay, yeah.
You know, because that was the one that I saw it in high school. It was just a seminal period. I mean, it's that or Eraserhead. It's really, really hard to pick. It's almost like two different worlds. You know, how do you pick between like Mars and Jupiter? You know?
Right.
But like, I'm gonna go with Mulholland Drive because that's the one I'm gonna watch next. That, you know, like,
Okay.
And so that kind of tells you something, you know. And,
Sure.
Right.
And LA was like a very mysterious place to me when I saw it, and like a lot of what I think about LA is from Lynch.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
like, kind of like defined like, you know, this like scary but beautiful, wondrous place, and you know, it kind of got me excited about that. But you know, and I think also like, you know, I brought up the website and the act of even getting a DVD and watching these movies at different periods of my life, all very impactful. But I think it must be said that like Lynch is beyond a good filmmaker or a great filmmaker or even one of the great filmmakers. He's beyond that because he also, without explaining a goddamn thing, he tells you how to do it. And he's offered a holistic worldview and philosophical perspective that you could apply to art, film, and life.
Yeah.
Who else has done that?
No
you
one.
know, like
the only
director I can think of.
The only person who's like, you know, close, I would say, but he hasn't like crossed that threshold into the transcendental, you know, in terms of the consciousness and the meditation. We were talking about this earlier with other guests before you came on. Is maybe like a Werner Herzog, you know, is somebody who also is kind of a you know, someone who's in the public consciousness as kind of a larger than life character. But he isn't maybe
like Jodorowsky and like a real mystical. I mean, these people. It's like these are the closest we get to Lynch.
There's that type of artist. Like I always think of Salvador Dali as being like the, you know, like he's used to say like, I want to be remembered for my mustache as much as my work, you know, and like he would just his look and the way he would say his interviews, and he was like a socialite and all these his life is, and Warhol too, you know, like what are like people are like, they view themselves, their life is part of the art, and they're sharing that with us, you know, and and it does feel like David was in that lineage, and and Herzog too, for sure.
I mean, but Lynch, just real quick on that note, like Lynch is just so you know, we were talking about how inspiring he is, you know, or, you know, was to you know, us, you know, people like us coming up as filmmakers, or you know, any of that type of thing, and it's so amazing just like how like generous, you know, he was with you know, spreading that and like encouraging, you know, people to take the same chances and risks and, you know, things like that. I don't know, it's just something that was so, he was such a, you know, where Herzog might be more cynical, you know, about he was very cynical about this, like, you know, about people getting into it.
Herzog, my friend happened to get into one of those Herzog classes in South America.
Oh, wow.
A very cool thing. And like, he hit them with like Ulysses was like the first thing.
Right.
Like, fuck you.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
what you have to read.
Yeah.
Like Lynch is like,
Yeah.
when Lynch would never,
Yeah.
like Lynch is so
Mhm.
much more weirdly approachable, and like Herzog,
Mhm.
it's like everything he does, like, well, that's amazing, but I can't do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Well, it's
But,
kind of a
like,
difference between an iconic American and an iconic European.
German.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And both are of value. It's just they're coming from a very different place.
Yeah,
David's
definitely.
we haven't talked about this, but like David is very much an American artist.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
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 I mean, yeah. And I think in the, the folksiness is almost like, it's easy to like write that off as just like a kind of quirk or like a part of Americana that he's bringing to the table. But I think it's like so much, it's so much deeper, of course,
Right.
because his movies are wildly profound and complex and challenging for most viewers, and yet his explanations of things are so simple and easy to understand.
Right.
And whether or not you're satiated by his answer is not kind of what I'm getting at. It's that he's able to explain and philosophize in the most like concrete, grounded ways. And it
Yeah.
is folksy and it's very American, but it's wildly impressive. Like
Mhm.
very few artists are willing to drop all the pretense
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
look almost a little
Well,
dumb.
what-
Yeah.
What I like about him and what I also admire and respect about him is kind of what you're saying. And we've mentioned this a few times tonight about how he never like revealed his hand, about like what X means Y and all these and what the symbolism means, because he understands the power of, to use a wrestling analogy, it's like kayfabe, right? The idea you gotta protect the business, you gotta protect the character, because once you reveal it, the magic is gone, right? Once you
I
explain
think
the
you'd also
magic
say,
trick,
though, it's inherently subjective. It's
there's that
like,
too, yeah.
Like
Right, there is no answer.
There is
your
no answer.
Eraserhead is different than my Eraserhead.
Yeah, which is cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, which is really interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
And I was also, just to throw this in, like Twin Peaks. Okay, like I was reading a little bit about Twin Peaks and like the impact it had on television, and I don't know if you guys already covered that, but there's just like,
Oh yeah.
apparently it's like no television show ever like pursued one crime the entire show, or like one idea. Like he really brought television series
Yeah.
all together. It's one thing. I mean, it goes everywhere, but it's
Like a continual
focus.
episodic story
Mhm.
unfolding over many episodes and not self-contained like X-Files, kind of was
and
half of that. Yeah.
And the influence is clear to see in like the golden age of television and beyond. I mean, it's like we're almost in a post Lynch television world now, but like more than anything, like way more than movies in a way. But like,
Well, like Evan, you brought up
Sopranos, yeah.
Yeah, it
It's
was
Oh,
one
yeah,
of the
big time.
one of the signposts along the way to get there. Yeah,
Yeah, you
compared
have
to like
to.
what was happening, like Dynasty or Dallas or those
Yes.
style of shows, which is what was
Yes.
on before
Yeah.
Twin Peaks.
Right.
it's a
exactly.
new era. But the only unfortunate thing,
Yeah.
which loops back to what we were talking about, is like we took all that stuff, but we added explanations.
Yeah.
Right. Or it's like, and that's what sucks.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we're just
Mhm.
overrun with explanations. That's all people see.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
did
that's we've
talk
been
about
talking
that.
about this the whole time.
Yeah.
Actually, Evan, I just
See? It's true.
No, well, there you go. No, but it's definitely to put him in the contemporary context. It does show you how like far we've gone, away
Yeah. Oh,
from
yeah.
like the more mysterious thing. No, but Evan, I've realized I know what the title of this episode is.
Oh.
David Lynch explained.
Oh. Yeah, totally. Absolutely. I love it. Oh God. So
Yeah, doesn't that it makes my skin crawl every time
yeah.
I see that as the final word, like title explain.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Crazy.
Oh, I feel like Marcus might even have this, but the Eraserhead sound designer, Spivot, what is
Splet.
his
Splet.
name?
Alan Splet.
Yeah.
So I believe his wind sounds came out, and I got his wind sounds.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
And I truly just throw them in almost everything I make, almost like my own
No.
weird little
Wow.
Tyler Durden, like
Yeah.
dick in the frame or something.
Yeah, I got you. I
Oh,
love
right.
that.
Is it just like
No.
pink noise or something? You know what I mean? Like, is it?
I'll send you guys. It's pretty cool. I mean,
That's
it's like
cool.
a lot. It's some stuff sounds like it's down a barrel. Wind
Yeah.
snore. It's
That's
pretty
awesome.
comprehensive.
That's cool.
Brilliant.
But the
That's
way
awesome.
that wind. I mean, it's just a Eraserhead. Because we're talking about it.
Oh yeah.
No, yeah. Well, it's something we've been bringing up is the simple thing is you could ignore it, and most do, but potentially half of film is sonic, is sound, is the audio, music or otherwise, and it's like it's so often just like an afterthought, and not him. And that's I think one of the main revolutions for Eraserhead was that you're experiencing it sonically as much as visual.
I know what I was
like in a theater. Like if you see it,
that was the first time I heard that.
Yeah,
like sound.
I
mean, maybe
has anybody seen it on this big screen, Eraserhead?
Oh yeah,
I saw it at Cinefamily.
Yeah, I've
sick.
The 16 millimeter.
Yeah,
nice. It's really the only way to do it.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I've seen it at like
awesome.
IFC Center, where it had a huge life there, in its early days.
Well, there's not that many movies where you can talk about the sound afterwards.
Yeah.
Where like, and there's so many moments that you remembered this great sound in his films. Not just Eraserhead, like all of them pretty much have the great just sound design moments that you recall.
Right.
And I don't remember that much of that, like in like a Spielberg movie or something. You're not talking about the sound design.
The one thing I was just going to say that I forgot to mention earlier was just about how like what was inspiring to me about Eraserhead, like in that time, getting the disc and the box set, as you mentioned, was this idea of, and I don't know this, maybe I'm misremembering it, but I don't think Eraserhead was the type of production where it's like a 20-day shoot, all consecutive. Like
Eraserhead? No, it's like 4 years.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, right. I thought I remembered that correctly.
No, well, the thing to remember is that Jack Nance committed
to the
so
hair.
much so that he had to have this insane haircut. For
I love that. I love that. So that was very inspiring to me. Was this idea of being able to conceptualize this whole world that like you can piecemeal chip away at over the course of years, shooting on weekends when you can, when you get the pieces and put it together. So then you've made this like thing, right? That's very tactile, handmade, straight down to the bone. And then you're able to like put this fucking giant, heavy atmosphere on all of that very DIY style filmmaking to like elevate it to make it, 2 tons, in terms of just with all that sound design and the wind and everything. And that was really inspiring to me. Like you could just make something on your own that has the power of that. Not that you're ever going to achieve.
That's the thing I've always said.
Yeah.
Like I don't like hearing like, well, it was such a low budget. They didn't really have a lot to work with.
No.
Because let's just say Eraserhead had no money at all.
Yeah.
But through the talent and the hard work, David Lynch also was a very hard-working guy.
Totally.
But and his great eye and ear and his guidance, it's like with no money, like he could make something out of nothing. You know what I mean? And he everything was there were sets and there was on location stuff. Yeah. But he could and then like the choice of course black and white, how the black and white processed, and everything like that, and the pacing and the edits and the and so it's like I've always felt there's no excuse with having no money because like there's so many choices that don't really have to do with money necessarily, right? You guys know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Yeah,
no, definitely.
Yeah. Well, finding money is an art too. Which you like ended up being good at. And you got some help from that. Like Sissy Spacek, I guess, helped. Gave some money for it. Or
Jack Fisk,
AFI.
Wow.
But he's still like. But again, there's like no money. Like, and what I'm saying, well, as people say, like it looks like $1 million on the screen. But it just was peanuts compared to what happened, what you're seeing.
Right.
Like that thing where that deformed God figure in the very beginning is like moving those levers, like by a window. Like that's such an incredible image. And all I'm trying to say is like that doesn't have to do with money.
No.
That has to do with like lighting choice.
Yep.
Like
craft.
The way that the actor looks, the figure, the composition, the pacing, the sound with it. There's no money. It's just like they needed money to like have some lights and a camera.
It's all vision, pure vision.
Have you guys talked about the Radiator Girl yet?
A little bit.
Okay.
A little bit.
I mean, like I will just say like the sound. I mean, just to come back to the sound design, but like take that scene for an example. Like I really cannot name another director whose sound design has influenced music as much as don't even talk about Angela or Julie Cruz. But yes, big impact. But even the sound design, like there's a lot of experimental electronic
texture
music and even more mainstream stuff that's pulling in a lot of that stuff.
And specifically Eraserhead, which is it's a tribute to Split and to David Lynch.
Right. Do you think like Throbbing Gristle was like riffing off of Eraserhead or something.
Well,
you know,
Yeah, riffing, but just like
it's industrial. It's
in the zeitgeist.
It's in,
yeah.
yeah, and-
well, actually, I like that we're on. Like, actually, with you, Joey, we're talking like Eraserhead really heavy, and I really like that actually because in a way, if let's say Eraserhead happened and it's incredible and it was a cult movie, and then like he got out of film and Mel Brooks didn't give him a hand or anything like that, and he didn't really wind up doing anything, there would just be Eraserhead.
Yeah,
the way some things are just singular.
Yeah.
So I like talking about Eraserhead, and one thing we brought this up before is that it was so of its time. It was so of a zeitgeist. And like, it's weird it was technically a punk movie.
Yeah.
Or by extension, new wave.
Sure.
But it's not a punk movie. There's no like punk in it, but it was punk in its look. What I'm trying to say is like the 70s ended.
Destroy all movies.
Yeah, but I'm saying like the 70s end. The 70s. I'll put it this way: the 70s started looking like El Topo, but the 70s ended looking like Eraserhead.
Yeah.
And this film, he didn't plan on this, and the film was made in the early to mid 70s by someone who's not like into like heavy, dark, like Nurse with Wound kind of stuff. Although he appreciates it, but that's not where he's coming from.
Joey lit up.
But like it's like if like a band, like a bass player and like a punk band, we're where's my Eraserhead shirt?
Totally, yeah.
You know, like
I
so
had
that's
it.
isn't that the
Me too.
coolest thing ever?
It is. Yeah.
That he
Yeah,
made like
no,
the
it
most
really-
punk movie.
No, he did.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
He did. And something we didn't really touch on too with Eraserhead and all of his works. I mean, we kind of did, but it's just like also young guy making this film, right? But like at the heart of it, it's not just this like abrasive industrial nightmare, whatever you want to call it. Like at the center of it, is this very real and relatable fear of like, oh my God, like
Parenthood.
Right. I'm gonna have to fit into this box and get married to this person and have a kid. So it's also coming from like just a very relatable place, and all of his films kind of explore like,
primary emotions.
Yeah, and that's just like
You're right.
So brilliant.
It's emotional. It's angsty almost. I mean, like and it's uncomfortable the way that you might have been at a family dinner table.
Yeah.
Oh, that dinner scene.
Oh,
but how about
brutal.
just like the urban? There's also there's something unique about Eraserhead too, because it's reflective of his time in an East Coast urban world, Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So like just those moments of like urban dread where like, oh, like let's look out the window. It's like our alleyway, the view of an alleyway in our window. And like what's happening? Oh, like a drunk is beating up another drunk.
And he would say,
very Rust Belt.
well, he would say on that note, he would say when his time living in Philadelphia, he's going to art school and eventually making this movie there, is like the people he would interact with on a day-to-day basis like also created such an impression on him. He's like, there was this woman that lived on the end of the street, and she would just walk around on all fours squawking like a chicken, and like some deranged person,
I bet. Well, and that's getting to like Pink Flamingos kind of people.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah, right. What a special
the same
time.
milieu.
Yeah.
It's like-
Yes, exactly.
Well-
like white trash freak out.
What is interesting too that he was like, he was his wife was pregnant with Jennifer or whatever at that time when he's coming up with the idea and stuff. So I mean, not to say that's what it's all about or anything like that, but it is
interesting
that something so abstract and strange can have some seeds in your,
It's
in
like
your own
autobiographical.
personal life.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's how special is that there's so much autobiography in a conceptual artist's work. I mean, you really can't say that about a lot of these movies, by auteurs, even,
No,
like
none
what
of
is-
them.
Yeah.
That's what I started the show with is like,
Oh, really? Yeah.
the brutalist. Okay. Question mark.
Yeah. I was just
All
going to
right.
say. Yeah.
No, but can I actually one thing, because I love that we're talking about Eraserhead, frankly, and we should do Eraserhead.
We
for the show.
are. We will.
I can't wait. But one thing that maybe you guys know what I'm talking about, and this might be a sad fact. Going with him to the grave.
Yeah.
Is what Bible verse explains to him what the soul of Eraserhead is? Do you guys know what I'm saying?
No, tell us.
He said somewhere in the Bible, definitely is the sentence or two that doesn't explain Eraserhead, but it's like that's where he's coming from. Those two sentences or so in somewhere in the Bible, and he's like, he's coy. He's like, I'm not going to explain it. And he's like, you know what? If you think just if you see me, like maybe to throw it out there. And he's like, so far, no one has. And I don't know if he ever revealed it. You guys know what I'm talking about?
But this is amazing. And
Isn't
I
that
feel
fucked up?
challenged.
Because
That's
I think we're never going to know. You know?
No, yeah. Oh, God.
Damn, that
Yeah.
seems like a
Also,
side project for
There's
somebody.
a couple lines in the Bible.
Wow.
That is to him what Eraserhead is.
I love it.
I mean, I've heard him say it's like his most spiritual project, so that lines up.
If you know
It's
the
like,
answer,
yeah.
leave it in the comments.
Yeah, then you'll
and
win
we'll
that
mail you
beautiful
the
There's no
lenticular.
confirmation. There's no way to confirm it.
I'm
you know?
kidding. I'm joking.
Okay.
But
What a
I will.
silly
If
name
you know,
also to call your movie. That is like really
No, you know what's awesome about that?
like Eraserhead.
No, you know
love
what's-
it.
Oh, I
It's,
love
like,
I know.
incredible, but it's
no,
It's like
I
the
don't know.
coolest name. It's a very punk name. Kind
It
of.
is.
yeah, exactly.
no, dude, it's
Exactly.
awesome that
Yeah.
that's the title.
It's indulgent, kind of in like the crazy,
Dude.
You know, I don't know.
I hadn't watched the movie in a long time. I need to rewatch it. We'll do it. But it was, Rémy had it on today, kind of preparation for today. We watched Eraserhead was in the background. Inland Empire was in the background. Holy shit.
Dude.
Everyone rewatched that
doing
immediately.
too. Yeah.
Rewatch that immediately. It's amazing. And Eraserhead's in the background, and it's like, yeah, I forgot. Right. The movie's called Eraserhead, but then he delivers on that title, bro, where they turn his head into pencil erasers.
Yeah.
And it's fucking dope.
not.
I
It's
actually
not.
completely forgot that.
Yeah.
so
It's
good.
like it's grounded in
Spoiler.
like part of the narrative.
No, it's amazing. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
is it
Yeah.
the
No,
other
absolutely.
mystery that we're going to lose is like, or just the secret of what the baby is too, right?
Yeah,
Tom?
right. I
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
That was the big thing.
He I think to his grave he left that secret's gone with him to the grave. It's like he never explained. My thing is that it's really gnarly. It's like
It's so gnarly.
like a skinned
Calf?
lamb,
Lamb or
like a
something.
calf fetus with like electric, not electric, but like mechanical
Mhm. Puppetry?
things fused into it. Yeah, like puppetry of a dead fetus or something.
Beautiful. Amazing.
Or not.
Or not. No, somewhere in the Bible it probably says what it is.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Joey, is there any final sentiments you want to send us off with? Just we're closing in on 2 fucking hours, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna close
Well,
this shit
I guess
down
I would
soon.
just say, I don't know if anyone else is going to bring it up, so I'll bring it up.
Okay.
David Lynch's music is also fucking incredible.
It is.
And it is very much the underdog and unsung.
I agree.
Like Crazy Clown Time
Oh.
is, I can listen to that. I listen to
Nice.
that all the time. And I do really like his music. And I discovered Beefheart through Lynch. So I mean, it was just like a big,
What's that song?
big influence.
Gonna have a good day
Good time
today.
Yeah. And that crazy like video for
It's great.
it is on
Yeah.
your-
It's great.
Send me an angel.
Yeah, send me an angel. Yeah. No, it is good. Yeah, everyone should check out Crazy Clown Time. I remember when that dropped. It's
There's a video for it and everything.
yeah, it's
you know.
great. It's good stuff.
Hope that's on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Joey, well, thank you so much, man.
Man.
For joining us.
It's very good to have you.
Yeah,
And
dialing
I thought
in.
this would be therapeutic. You know, we could
Yeah.
all just chat.
No, I'm glad we
and
did
go
this.
through this and everyone, you know, we had a couple other people and everyone is touched by his life, his work, and him and by his loss. And so I'm really happy to share this with you and everybody else. It's very cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
We can do this, you know,
Yeah. So
and then we'll share it with everybody else with our little convo.
Exactly.
Our wake, as we're calling it.
yes, this is the Lynch Wake. And thanks so much, Joey. We'll definitely have you back on the show. You're long overdue.
Yeah, man.
We'll definitely have
Maybe
you
for a
back.
David Lynch movie.
Yeah,
How about
yeah.
that?
How about
Yeah,
them
Your
apples?
Eraserhead.
So, all right, Joey. Well, we're gonna let you go, and then we're gonna wrap up the show here. So, thanks again, man.
All right.
And
Yeah,
Have a
man.
good rest
Take it
of your
easy.
show, you
Till next
guys.
time.
all right.
Thanks for
Take
having
care.
me again.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. See ya.
Good to see you.
Bye.
All right. That was Joey joining us from Los Angeles. So, guys, well, that was 2 fucking hours we did as a
Yeah,
tribute.
Yeah.
What am I going to do with my other 3 pages of notes I have here to talk about?
Well, we are going to cover his movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That seems to be the big takeaway as much as anything.
Yeah,
here.
we're definitely this year we're gonna hit those for sure, guys. You know, it's because we're closing in on 2 hours. Do you think we should just play these clips we have here as like an ultra moment? Do you want to do that?
Yeah.
or-
How about in succession? That's a good idea. Just like
Yeah.
run it out.
Sure.
Multiple. Oops,
Yeah.
all moments.
Oops, all moments. Yeah, we did have some clips prepared, but we'll sort of, we'll sort of have them play as our
Moment
of Zen for the show.
Now that's wrong.
Yeah, it is.
Like
I know.
fucking Jerry Lewis introing David Lynch clips.
The only other
Moment.
filmmaker
Yes.
who could,
Yeah.
Yeah.
stand
Well, I thought you were going to say the only show that would do that would go there. We go there.
yeah, we went
Hit
there.
it. Drop
Yeah.
drop something.
Yeah.
We go there.
Oh, I know. Oh, sorry.
No, drop.
Sorry. It's getting late. But anyway, let's just set up what these are for the good people, because they are pretty special. The one clip that I was excited for you guys. Fuck it. Can I just play it because I want to get your reaction?
Sure.
Okay. This I was again, we were watching Eraserhead. We watched Inland Empire in the background today. We also had David Lynch, The Art Life in the background, which is a documentary from about 10 years ago, roughly. It's on the Criterion channel if you want to check it out. It's cool. It's a little verite doc just about kind of like, Lynch's background as an artist, how he, got to Philadelphia and got into school, meeting Jack Fisk and, all this stuff. Cool. But it's obviously very abstractly made. But there was a story that just jumped out at me that he tells in this that was so fucking funny. And this is him. This is the story of the one of the very first times David Lynch ever smoked pot. Okay. And it was going to a Bob Dylan concert. So I thought you guys might enjoy this. So I'm just going to put this on real quick here for you guys to check it out. Okay, here we go.
And the next time I smoked dope, Bob Dylan was playing, at this big place right down the street. I was way in the back. Out of all those seats, when I sat down, there was this girl sitting next to me that I'd just broken up with. Then Bob Dylan came out on the stage, and I couldn't believe how little he was. And I measured him with my fingers on my knee, and I said to her, his jeans are only this big. Then I measured his guitar. I says, his guitar is only this big. And I wasn't even digging the music. It was so far away. So I wanted to get out of there really bad. Then when the concert was over and Peter came back with a bunch of his friends, he said, nobody walks out on Dylan. I said, I walk out on Dylan. Get the fuck out of here. And so that was the end of Peter is my roomie.
Wow. David Lynch in the 60s. Yeah. One thing I just was remembering was this is the last thing I've been thinking about with David Lynch was he was in that Beatles documentary, Beatles 64.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That came out in November.
That's
Thanksgiving.
Right. That's right.
And he had attended like the Washington, D.C. Beatles concert. Like their second thing they played or whatever when they first came to America.
What a trivia.
But also, so there's that. But then also, so he saw those icons. Mm-hmm. But then before that, he shake JFK's hand in this procession. I think because it was like JFK was visiting and he was like
Forrest
seeing
Gump.
like.
Yeah.
Like the boys, really. Like the Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
It was like something, I think, Boy Scout related. Like, let's meet all the
Eagle Scout.
Eagle Scout, whatever.
Right.
And so he shook hands with JFK and then he saw the Beatles.
Right.
Wild.
That's
David Lynch.
insane.
That's wild.
You know what? Fuck it. Let's set up all the other clips. They're going to go by fast. Marcus, set up yours.
I just was sort of interested in he did commercials. A lot of people don't realize. And
Lots of them.
Lots of them, yeah. So and some of them are pretty interesting. There's some Obsession. There's the PlayStation one that some people know.
That's a great
this one I thought was really dope. Parisian people, cigarettes. The French have always been a big supporter of his. So
this is for cigarettes.
Dope. This is for cigarettes, and it's also very Twin Peaks season 3, but this is made in 1998.
98.
So.
Okay, here we go. Let's check it out. Whoa. Great.
Cigarettes.
Yeah. Great. Wow. Cool soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
like, this is about as weird as his commercials get. But
oh, yeah.
Usually he does normal ones too.
like spray and wash commercials.
There's a pasta commercial with like Gerard Depardieu that's super normie.
Whoa! Wow!
Anyway, that's a solid commercial.
That's pretty sick.
Amazing.
What the fuck, dude?
Holy shit!
Fish flopping out of the ceiling.
God,
Yeah, fish coming out of the ceiling.
Like, okay, let's do backwards talking and slow it down.
Yeah.
Let's fucking rock and roll here.
Yeah,
you know,
it's amazing.
Let's stop fucking around. Backwards and slow.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
Tom, set up the EXP one you post on EXP.
Oh yeah. So there was a show, New Wave Theater. It was hosted by Peter Ivers.
Yeah.
Who this is like late 70s into the early 80s. It got picked up. It was a local TV show in LA, like UHF kind of thing. And it got picked up later and was broadcast on Night Flight nationally throughout the country through the 80s. Mm-hmm. Peter Ivers was murdered, this host, and it's still unsolved murder. It's still an unsolved murder. He was bludgeoned in his downtown LA apartment. No one knows what happened. And he was an interesting person. And one of the things he did amazingly was he wrote the song In Heaven.
Oh.
He sings
that's
it.
Wrote and sang it. It's in the Eraserhead. It's the song that the lady in the lady in the radiator. Sorry. Yeah, and so that's Peter Ivers. I guess he's singing it. And
wow.
Wrote it.
He had a really high voice.
Yeah. So he's friends with David Lynch. So he had David on this show that had like the Circle Jerks and Black Flag and stuff like that, and other kinds of crazy punk and new wave artists were, it was New Wave Theater, and it was a great, weird show.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to David Jove, actually was the genius behind it. And it's highly recommended if you're not familiar with it. I bet a lot of it's to be found here.
A lot of it's on EXP TV, I think, where there's portions of it and stuff.
Totally. But you could probably queue up some stuff. You should check it out. So here, David pops in, and the question is raised to David, hey, David Lynch, what's new wave? And this is like 1981 or something.
Okay, let's check it. Here we go.
David is going to tell us what new wave is. Pete? It's a truck going down the highway at 70 miles an hour. And in the back of the truck, there's 100 smiling cows. Except one of them has got his head stuck through the floor of the truck, and its nose is grinding on the highway. And the smell and the scream, that's new wave.
Yes. Oh, shit. That's awesome, dude.
And there's a band, I think this something like the Screamers or something. Like they're on the side of the stage, and then Peter's going to go like, ladies and gentlemen, the psychopaths, And that's why there's like squiggles of
squigging and squiggles. That's amazing.
Pretty cool.
That's amazing.
That's pretty cool shit. And he's right. That is the definition of new wave. Yeah. In the dictionary.
Last one here, just because it's so great. This is famous spot for Eraserhead, right. And this was made for the New Art. Is that the backstory?
Yeah. It was made specifically for the New Arts midnight screenings of Eraserhead in 79, 82.
Yeah.
It played for years every Friday or Saturday.
Yeah, it's amazing. And so just the backstory on this is, Marcus, you sent this over. And it's based on a day in 1981 when David Lynch said he had rescued 5 Woody Woodpecker toys that he saw hanging up as he drove past a gas station. Okay. And he says, I screech on the brakes. I do a U-turn, go back and I buy them and I save their lives. And he says this seriously. I named them Chucko, Buster, Pete, Bob, and Dan. And they were my boys and they were in my office. They were my dear friends for a while, but certain traits started coming out and they became not so nice.
I love that. I love the plot twist because I never knew that there was beef between him and the Woody Woodpeckers. We're about to see.
Incredible. And he goes, and then it says here from this article, he says, looking straight ahead, he says, with a grim finality, he said to the person reporting this, they are not in my life anymore.
Amazing. I want to hear their side of the story.
Yeah.
I love that he called one of them Dan.
Dan.
Has kind of a goofy clown name, and then it's like one's like Dan.
Yeah.
Can you figure out which one's Dan here?
Yeah.
We're going to watch. This is a special promo for the Rep Theater in LA, still going, the New Art on the West Side. And this was made for the midnight screening residency that he had for years with his friends.
All right, here. I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit because I think there's a little intro here. Okay, here we go. Ready?
Hello. We're all very happy to be here tonight. First of all, I'd like to introduce my boys. This is Chucko, and this is Buster, and this is Pete. I'm David Lynch, and this is Bob, and this is Dan.
Amazing.
And
That's Dan.
we just wanted to get together and thank all of the people that have supported Eraserhead through the years, and particularly thank the New Art Theater for its support. The New Art was one of the first theaters to ever show Eraserhead. Also, the boys wanted me to wish you peace and happiness.
Oh.
And these guys aren't just a bunch of goofballs. They know that there's plenty of suffering in the world.
How?
And they spent many years with little iron hooks in their backs up on Sunset Boulevard. And but they tell me that there's this all-pervading happiness underneath everything.
That's what
and
he-
the more time I spend with them, the more I believe it. And so we wish you peace and happiness, and long live Eraserhead.
Wow.
Thanks a million.
All right, let's leave it at that.
That's the perfect thing to end on there. I think couldn't have said it better. All right. Well, guys, it's been real. Big mega tribute to David Lynch. Godspeed, sir. You were one of the best that ever did it. Thank you to all of our guests that called in. Rémy, Lars, Joey. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
And to the viewers, we are going to get back into the swing of things next week. We're going to return with a regularly scheduled episode of Fargo. So we're delaying that a week in order, obviously, in light of this a special episode that we had to do. And then just the last plug I'll give is stay tuned for the Fargo episode, because at the end of the Fargo episode, we're going to reveal what Tom's birthday episode is going to be, and the $200 that I had to pay somebody who guessed it right, which I can't believe.
Because someone did correctly guess
I can't believe it.
your boy's pick here. So drop.
Oh, sorry.
Timing.
I know.
So there's a lot of fun in store.
Right.
And so like hard cash is being transacted here.
Yes. Right.
This is getting real over at one fucking hour.
It is.
You know?
It is. I don't know how many more times I can do that, but
Yeah, exactly.
congratulations to the winner. We will unveil the
I'm
winner in
very
the film.
impressed.
Yeah, so very
Absolutely.
special stuff. But all right, guys, thank you so much for chilling with us for over 2 hours as we eulogized and celebrated David Lynch. As we said many times tonight, we're definitely going to cover the rest of his films in I'm sure in short order. So
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. And fuck it. We're going to have a bonus moment for tonight. So stay tuned for that. All right, everybody. Thanks so much. And we will see you on the other side, I guess, right? All right, guys. Take care.
I used to go to Bob's Big Boy restaurant, and I went there for 7 years, every day at 2:30. I went there because I liked to have a chocolate milkshake, and there was a silver goblet shake. It wasn't really ice cream. It was a thing they put into a thing called a Taylor machine, and it would get cold, and they'd pull the lever, and it would come out in kind of a tube of ice cream and fill this goblet. And I liked this chocolate milkshakes like that at 2:30. If you came during lunch, they made so many of them that it never would get cold enough to be ice cream. It would be like soup. So I would go later, and then it would be cold enough. It would be just right. So, and if I went later, I'd be so hungry. You know what I mean? So I had these things for 7 years with a cup of coffee, and I would write on the napkins. It was like having a desk, and you need paper. There's a piece of paper, and you write on it when you get ideas. So the thing is that I stopped going there. I climbed into the dumpster, about year 7, and I found one of these cartons that the milkshakes came from, and every ingredient ended in zine or 8. And there was nothing natural anywhere near that carton. So one day, though, in Bob's, I saw a man come in, and he came in to the counter, and that's all I remember of this man.
but seeing him came a feeling, and that's where that Frank Booth came from.
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
That was wicked, man.